from Sagittarius. I love this time of year. We're going to have quite an interesting conversation tonight. Angels, demons, and the tarot. Wait, what? How does one thing have to do with the other? I guess magic is satanic. Not even close. And we're going to talk about that tonight, right? We're going to speak about the realities of some of these words that I think have outlived their usefulness. Or at least been mishmashed around so much that the meaning is completely gone. And so I think we should refresh our understanding of these terms and how it's used in some of the systems that we are very familiar with and don't realize, like, for instance, the astrological system. Astrology is a very interesting vocabulary and a language system that we could use to describe some complex ideas in a way that's understood by the mind and the heart at the same time. And, sort of the poetic nature of the information gives us the ability to grasp it much deeper than we could otherwise. And so it's a very useful tool. Tarot is another example of that. And so what we gain from the experience is maybe a reprieve from some of the confusion and in its best case, actual access to what this information can provide, access to what this information is supposed to be telling. We say the words Jupiter and rising, and we say the word angel and demon. And what does that all mean? So let's get my chat here set up real quick. Make sure I can see what's going on here. Been switching up the music lately. I hope it's okay for everybody. It's in a certain kind of mood. Different vibe. I kind of like it. This is aimed ahead. They're pretty cool. It's sort of a dark EDM techno vibe. Some of it is very magical when you start speaking about the cliphotic body or the dark tree, some of these other things. Lilith. Some of the energies that we know are inside, but we prefer to simply voyeur in others. You can get away with that for a certain amount of time, but ultimately there's going to be a point when you have to be honest with yourself. So, I'm just trying to get my chat working here. I'm having a couple of little things going on with getting the chat to kind of do its thing for me here, and so you have to pardon me while I work through that. Wouldn't be a stream with Michael if stuff just broke out of it. If everything just worked, it wouldn't be fun. There you go. Some audio's in there, that's good. Okay, that's better. So, angels, demons, the tarot, astrology. These are each just vocabularies for the same thing. And it's a way to access parts of ourselves that we may not be familiar with or able to access otherwise. It's our way of accessing parts of the world that cannot be seen with the eyes, but certainly exist, can be measured, can be experienced. And each has their own advantage or disadvantage with respect to the usefulness in certain circumstances. And so, tarot isn't always the right tool, depending upon what it is you're looking to do. Or astrology may be a little too granular and specific for something that really requires a much more general, higher level kind of angelic response. And of course, you can get as complex as John Dee and go all the way down to the most specific nuance of the granular nature of the fiery part of water from the perspective of air, right? That's something that you can do if you so decided to go and invoke a specific spirit, which is the airy part of the fiery part of the watery part of the universe.
Are you gonna stop? Are you gonna stop?
But the tarot provides us with a much more accessible means of doing that.
Are you gonna stop?
You don't need a degree in 3 languages and the machinations of, mathematics and coding algorithms. We just need to understand that there's a certain set of these symbols and archetypes and what they're actually pointing to. And so that's what we're going to cover. First things first.
Are you gonna stop?
Spoil the sense.
Are you gonna stop?
Get some incense.
Are you gonna stop?
Love my crack open a fresh one.
Are you gonna stop?
I'm very lucky because I sell this stuff, and so whenever I need my incense, I just go grab it from my stock, and I sell a good fair bit of it, and so it's fresh. And so anytime I light my incense, it's fresh.
Are you gonna stop? Are you gonna stop?
This one in particular is Satya Sai Baba Nag Shampa.
Are you gonna
I'm
stop?
using the same incense my entire life.
Are you gonna stop?
I love this smell.
Are you gonna stop? Are you gonna stop telling those lies? Are you gonna keep telling those lies? I can see right through you. I can see right through you.
It's a big bowl of angels. Yes, we are.
Are you gonna stop? Are you gonna stop?
So, let's start with the tarot.
Are you gonna stop?
We have this symbol system that we're all familiar with. It's cards with images, 2 different types, 3 if you count the courts as separate. You have the court cards, the majors, the minors, the suits, all this different stuff. These are all just different ways to navigate the vocabulary. And then we learn from Solomon that there's this whole population of demons. And this population of demons can be spoken to, can be made to do our bidding. Or to corrupt us into thinking that's what took place when they actually steal our souls and use us as their tools. That's another option. and the weak fail. The strong succeed. And of course, that's bullshit. That's ridiculous. I mean, consider what we're talking about here. Consider what we're saying. All that is an excuse for not stepping into our power, for assuming that power resides elsewhere and it's incumbent upon us to and somehow manipulate it into doing our bidding, as opposed to recognizing the truth that power is within us. We don't have to answer to a demon to get anything done. We have to be aware of the part of ourselves that's capable of doing that thing, and we have to come to terms with it. And in that process of communication, we may discover that the thing we wanted to do isn't correct, or we may consider that it is and have the will to get it done, to engage others in that process, to become the thing, and to develop a density, a gravity, so that the thing can be made manifest in our world. There's that word, manifest. Careful. Angels and demons. What does that have to do with the tarot? Well, the tarot is a key. And it doesn't just unlock one door, it unlocks many doors. And so one of the doors that the tarot unlocks is that Solomonic system called the Goetia. There's a lot more to Solomonic magic than just the Goetia, and that's something we're going to discuss here at length. The Solomonic system has a number of seals related to the planets, 44 total, broken up into 7 planets with a very specific pattern. All kinds of neat sigils and seals. But it turns out that it actually is numerically designed in such a way that it coincides with a very specific type of magic called the ShemHaMephorash. The ShemHaMephorash is the 72-fold name of God, the unspeakable name. It's based on a sort of Kabbalistic, Hermetic machination of the Bible. Okay, I'm going to pop that up now. Really get a grasp of what it is that we're talking about here. And so the Kabbalists went to Genesis, or actually in this case, Exodus. Genesis we'll get to later. Chapter 14. Verses 19, 20, and 21, which conveniently all have the same number of characters, which is 72. And they took each letter of that name and they laid it out in a specific manner. And the manner in which they laid it out was such that, very similar to the bottom here, they would take that line of first 72 letters starting from the right, and they would put the letters out, and then they would, starting from the left, lay it out again underneath, and then they would do it all over again on the bottom, starting from the right. And what that gave us was sort of a table of letters, and then they would read from the top down with a suffix of El for God, or Ea for goddess, or the feminine and masculine energy of the god, the receptive and the passive energy, the active. And so the name would be drawn by speaking the letters and speaking the suffix. And so we have these names that would be derived, this 72-fold unspeakable name of the ShemHaMephorash, which was a correlation to these 72 demons of the Goetia. Sort of an upper and a lower world version of each. And what does the tarot have to do with that? Well, the tarot is a map for that. Within each one of these cards is various other information. There's layers of information. And so, for instance, we have the Knight of Pentacles, which is a card, and inside of that are some signs. And inside of those signs, there's cards, the small cards, right? The Eight of Wands, the Knight of Wands, the Ten of Wands. That's the period of time that we're in right now, Sagittarius, the Eight of Wands. And there's all kinds of layers of information inside of there. So you'll see that the sign of Sagittarius contains 3 cards. Well, it turns out each one of those cards contains 4 spirits. Those 4 spirits are 2 angels and 2 demons. And the names of those angels and demons were derived in the process that we just discussed. So they would take the name, add a prefix or a suffix of al or ea, discussing the gender, so to speak, the polarity of the angel. Oftentimes it was called the day angel and the evening angel. Depending upon the time that you were born, it would be determined what angel kind of ruled that period of time. And then the day and the night demon. And so you would have these, within each period of time, a series of entities. So if we look at the wheel again here, we have within each period of time the Eight of Wands, and inside of that Eight of Wands is a number of 4 spirits. In the Nine of Wands is another 4 spirits. And in the Ten of Wands is another 4 spirits. There's 2 angels and 2 demons per card. And so Sagittarius, or the art card as an example, Temperance for the Rider-Waite system, the planet Jupiter rules Sagittarius, has 12 spirits sort of encapsulated. And that appears down here as an example. If we go to Sagittarius, you'll notice that when we line up that name the way that we discussed, you have sections here of names. There's 2 names per 10-degree period of time. And so Sagittarius has a total of 6 names of angels, and in the lower world version, the demonic realm, is an additional 6 names, which are demons, for a total of 12. 12 we've heard before, right? 12 is the number of signs, the number of petals on the outside of the rose. And so what we're talking about here is that every sign, within each sign, is its whole own zodiac in the form of these angel and demon names. 12 different qualities, 12 different identities, 12 different characters that sign is able to appear as. And so how do we access these?
Do you want to keep worrying about tomorrow?
Like, what does it actually mean to invoke an angel or a demon? What is the process of speaking to something that is just a part of our psychology, or potentially some kind of cosmic being that could wreak havoc? I mean, how silly that we think we're strong enough to call some interdimensional being and then control it without first going through the work of even understanding what those beings are. Imagine how foolish you would seem if those beings were real and they showed up and realized that this little fool of a monkey that can do math thinks it's going to tell me what to do, but it doesn't even know what I am. It seems silly and dangerous. I mean, the worst case scenario is you wind up psychotic thinking that there's a bunch of demons running around doing your bidding. And, you know, if they're real, then you're in trouble. Capricorn, we're going to be talking about tonight, actually, because it's part of this process. And so I'm glad that you asked, because Capricorn's next, right? We just left Scorpio. We're now in Sagittarius, and then we move into Capricorn. Okay, and in the tarot, that is the Death card, Temperance or Art, and then the Devil. And I know it sounds all scary, but that's one of the reasons that I decided to do this subject tonight, is because it actually isn't at all. And what it is a story of redemption. You see the wands in Sagittarius that lead us to that final stage, and the Ten of Wands at the end of the period of Sagittarius, the third deacon. We're building a pyre, a bonfire, and what's the goal here? Well, the goal is to provide the opportunity for redemption. And what does that mean? Well, if you look at the story of, for instance, Jesus winding up in hell, it's similar to the idea of the Ten of Wands winding up in the next stage in Capricorn in the Devil, in the Two of Pentacles, and re-emerging as light after that 3-day period of Capricorn. The 3 days are the 3 deacons. Now let me make that clear here with this wheel. We just left the period of time of Scorpio. We moved into Sagittarius, and then we'll be moving into Capricorn. If we look here at this beautiful rose that the Hermeticists gave us, the Rosicrucians. Thank you, Golden Dawn. Thank you, Golden Dawn. Thank you, Golden Dawn. And you look at the signs around the outside, the planets and so forth. And we can see that story playing out in the letters. We can see that story playing out in the magic. Right? And so we have here Nun, which is Scorpio. The symbol here is a fish. Nun is a fish, and it's the Death card. Scorpio is the Death card. And then we're moving into Sagittarius, which is Samak. The support, the prop, the rock. Right, the rock. And then we move into Capricorn. Coin, the Devil. And then Aquarius, which is the ultimate goal of the work. Why we're all here. The thing that we're striving to achieve. And so, and let me be more appropriate about that. It's not what we're here to achieve, it's what we're destined to. Every man and every woman is a star. But what does it have to do with Aquarius? Well, the star card is Aquarius. And the star comes from Astarte, or Ishtar, right? And what this is referring to is a certain quality of our inner self. There's a certain part of ourselves that we either allow or not to manifest in our personality, to manifest in our magic. But when we do so, there's benefit. It allows for the balance. It allows for us to have a deeper understanding of ourselves and reasons that we feel the way that we do, and that we strive toward the things that we do, and that we want the things that we want. I chose the Hermetic Tarot today as one of the decks I'll be talking about, because it provides a lot of information in the cards themselves in a very unobtrusive way that is effective for this type of work. So you'll notice here on the Knight of Pentacles, we have some signs right there, right? And you have Leo, Virgo, Virgo. And what that refers to here, if we look at that wheel, is that idea in a card. You'll notice that Leo moving into Virgo is the Knight of Discs, right? The king in the Rider-Waite system, but the Knight of Discs. And that is the 7-8-9, right? The 7 of Wands and the 8-9 of Disc, which is Leo moving into Virgo. But now underneath this card are these three small cards, the 7, 8, and 9, right? So the 7 of Wands has its own set of information, its own entities. And we see that, for instance, if we were to look at the period of time that we're in right now, we just left Scorpio, moving into Sagittarius, and then ultimately Capricorn. And so we're in the first period of Sagittarius, which is going to be these two angels, those three letters with an L and those three letters with an Aya. And we'll discuss pronunciation when appropriate. It's not wise to just go around spitting out angel names. So that said, though, what I thought would be interesting to talk about tonight as an exercise, so you can get the full understanding of this process. Discs would be the pentacles. Pentacles, meaning the element of earth, right? So within the tarot, there are wands, cups, swords, and pentacles. Crowley, as an example, in several types of decks, will call them disc instead of pentacle, because penta implies 5, and that is not what they're trying to do. And so instead of saying pentacle, he says disc, in order that there's not a confusion. I've heard people change the word to pantacle, panta meaning many, and so I think that is a more appropriate term, the word pantacle. But it's not so often that you'll hear it used that way. So what the disc is just the element of earth as the suit of discs. Right? In playing cards, that would be the diamond. You know, we have the club, spades, diamonds, and hearts. Hearts are the cup. The diamonds are the discs or the pentacles. Oh, look at that. The mod's on it. Okay. By the way, Kitten is also a practicing magician, and she knows what we're talking about here. And so I appreciate the contribution, Kitten. Discs are the element of earth. Things become solid. Okay, good. So, that said, underneath each court card is an entire zodiac in and of itself. 12 whole different entities. Day and night angels, day and night demons, each one with sort of a different quality of the same spirit, like different sides of ourselves. And so, for instance, again, if we go back to our wheel, we'll notice here Sagittarius has the 8, 9, and 10 of Wands, right? And so there's some qualities to Sagittarius. One of them is Mercury in Sagittarius. Another one is the Moon in Sagittarius. And then finally, Saturn in Sagittarius. And so there's different qualities. And you could separate that Mercury in Sagittarius into 4 parts of itself. Very similar to the Yud-Hey-Vav-Hey, right? We have the Yud version of the Mercury in Sagittarius. That is the day angel. The Hey version of that, which is the night demon, and so forth. We have the night angel, the day demon. And so these 4 qualities of the 8 of Wands give us this entirely different perspective. And more specifically, those that are astrologically inclined and understand the concept of cardinal, fixed, and mutable, this is essentially the cardinal version of Sagittarius, the fixed version of Sagittarius, the mutable version of Sagittarius. And those who are, of course, alchemically inclined will recognize that as the sulfur of Sagittarius, the salt of Sagittarius, the mercury of Sagittarius. And each one of those having their passive in there, active. And so it's a very, very beautiful, neat, tight language that allows us to say to ourselves, what is the quality of the thing that we're attempting to communicate with? What is the quality of the thing we're attempting to understand about ourselves so that we can activate or work on maybe reducing? or the actual literal experience of knowing a being outside of yourself, of experiencing that being empirically, speaking with an angel. If you're sitting around your bedroom waiting for a winged being to appear, it's going to be quite a while before that happens, unfortunately. However, if you are interested in having the experience of being known by another entity and feeling that recognition, of knowing that you're being seen, of knowing that you're being heard, and then being able to hear it speak back, that's a different story. And again, that's why I think it's very important that we, maybe consider changing these words. Angels and demons, I don't really think is a useful term any longer. I think it's too easily misunderstood, misconstrued, and weaponized. And so, any sharp-eyed Kabbalist out there, or anyone peeking in on the channel to see if I know what I'm talking about or not, who looked down at my ShemHaMephorash and said, that's not ShemHaMephorash, he's using English characters and those aren't the correct characters. What are these? That's correct. This is not the typical ShemHaMephorash. The typical ShemHaMephorash is based on, again, just to be clear, Exodus 14, or verses 19, 20, and 21. Okay? Chapter 14, verses 19, 20, and 21. Each having 72 letters, and those 72 letters are laid out backward and forward in a sort of a zigzag pattern. But instead, what I did as a means of teaching this subject in an exercise was I chose the first 72 letters of Genesis, starting with Bereshit, right? So you'll see that here. And so that's what you're looking at here. It's the ShemHaMephorash, but using Bereshit, Bara, and then the next set of characters until it lands on Aharetz at the end. And so I created my own list of angel names that's related to Bereshit, and anyone who wanted to could go ahead and copy this and use it. It doesn't change this effectiveness of its jumbled up in a way that potentially doesn't make sense to anybody else. And that's what I want to get at tonight. I want to sort of point out the fact that we have the power to tell this story in our own way, and it be just as powerful as some arcane knowledge with spooky symbols and incenses and costumes and so, one of the things I did once with an individual related to this was Midsummer Night's Dream. All right, just take the first 72 letters of Midsummer Night's Dream, put them in a row, take that same list of letters and put it underneath it but opposite, and so start from the back and just zigzag the same way you would with Exodus 14 if you were going to do the normal ShemHaMephorash, or copy it from a book. A lot of occult books have the ShemHaMephorash laid out. Right, like here's an example of a beautiful rendition of it. In fact, actually, on a coin. Right, that's the full name, all three-letter names. Pardon the focus there. All three-letter names in a spiral. It's quite beautiful. This is on the. This is the first pentacle of Saturn, by the way. But that said, the letters that are chosen are important to the individual. And so if you have a connection very deeply to, say, for instance, Harry Potter, if you have something very deeply connected to the Bible, if you have something very connected to a certain piece of poetry, the Jabberwocky, and you take the first 32 letters of, or 72 letters of Jabberwocky and lay them out and go through the machinations, you'll have these names to speak these specific qualities. Thank you for listening, and feel free to contribute to the conversation if you have anything you want to pop into the chat as far as questions or insight that you feel would add to what we're talking about. Thank you. And so, how do we differentiate these qualities, right? So we understand now that the name isn't as important as understanding what it's pointing to, right? Like, it's more important to know that it's actually just a sign. And so now that we know that, what is the sign pointing to? When I'm deciding that I want to call a certain quality, how do I know where to go? Well, that's beautiful, because the Kabbalists, the astrologers, they gave us this vocabulary. And so if I want to, for instance, understand the quality of giving, I'm probably going to be somewhere in the space of Earth, or I might be somewhere in the space of Venus, right? Venus is a very bountiful energy. It's the heart chakra. That's why the heart chakra is green. Venus is a green color on the tree of life, which is really the basis for all of this knowledge. This is what we're talking about. Here's Venus. Venus is green. Venus appears as a tarot card, as between the two sort of primordial lovers. She's both the mother and the child. How interesting. Right? That's why 7 has the connotations that it does as well. But so, and there's lots of ways to go about this. Let's say we've determined that that's what we want to do. So we want to reflect this idea of Venus in our magic. And so we can go over to the wheel here, and you'll see that Venus appears on a number of cards here, right? And we're going to go through these specifically here and see if we can find some use. Libra is ruled by Venus as a sign. Okay, all right. The 7 of Cups in Scorpio is ruled by Venus. Okay, all right. Aquarius, ruled by Venus. The 5 of Swords, that first. And there's a number of these that are ruled by Venus, right? And so we can go through these as well. Aries, 4 of Wands. And each one of these cards has obviously a sort of different connotation. So depending upon the type of magic that you're looking to perform, the type of environment you're looking to create in order to bring forth maybe an idea. Depends, right? So some of these may not be appropriate, and they will be, and that's why you go through, find the correct vibe, the correct energy, the correct correlation in language, proximity of idea, right? And then we can go from there. 2 of Cups. Isn't that beautiful? 2 of Cups is Venus in Cancer. That's the love card. How beautiful. And it's Cancer, but this sort of dancing, it's just certainly so much more than that, but it is a beautiful symbolism nonetheless. And so forth. And then we have the idea right here, Virgo. And now, where does that come from? Why is Venus associated with those particular cards? What is the reason that we have this correlation of these particular symbols? Like, why is the 7 of Cups Venus and not, say, Saturn or Mars? Well, that's actually very specific, because that is chosen not arbitrarily, but based on the tree of life. You'll notice that there's this idea of ascending and descending in the numbers, right? And descending means we start at the top and then we go down the tree. In fact, that's actually illustrated by the Kabbalists as a lightning bolt. You'll see that there's sort of that yellowish outline, right? And that shows the direction of that descent as a lightning bolt. Now, there's an ordinality to that. We have here Saturn, the first planet, and then Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, the Moon, then back up to Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, the Moon, and that order matters. And so let's see if we can see that pattern somewhere else. Well, it's right here. Right? Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun. This little here with the 2 Marses we'll talk about in a moment. But you'll notice that that pattern repeats. Okay? And so let me zoom in on that so that we can all really get a good look at that. Okay? Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. This is the pattern around this wheel, and that is the basis for the meanings of these tarot cards. The cards' meanings are based on these planets and sign combinations. So the Five of Cups being Mars and Scorpio gives us the reason that the Five of Cups is a shitty card to get, right? It's not some accidental, arbitrary thing that we decided that the Five of Cups is bad because 5 is bad or whatever the case may be. No, there's a reason, and that's it. There it is. Okay, and so the Tree of Life is the diagram of the basis of why we've decide on that order. Why that particular order? Well, that's why. Okay, so now it should be clear that that's not arbitrary, and there's some implications to the fact that when we're moving through time forward, that it's descending on the tree. There's a correlation between descending from above and moving through time, right? And we can certainly use that to our advantage when having these experiences inside and thinking these things through and working through the symbolism of the cards and so forth, right? And certainly when we're trying to discuss talking to entities. And so let's go ahead and pull a card right now. Let's just, for the sake of it, the period of time that we're in right now is the Eight of Wands, right? So let's pull the Eight of Wands. Pardon me for not having it ready. Alrighty. Let's see here. I passed 3 of them. There we go. So we'll see some stuff on here. Eight of Wands. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull up an image because, man, that glare is terrible, and I apologize. And so I came prepared. So let me just go ahead and pull up a scan. I scan all of my tarot decks so that I have a high-resolution copy that I can bring up for this particular purpose during teaching. And so let's just take advantage of that. Let me find my 8. There's the 8. There we go. There's the wand. Okay, very good. Okay, let's bring that down to the normal size. Okay, very good. So what we've got here is a rendition of this card from the Hermetic Tarot. And there's a various information on here that is relevant to what we're speaking about. For instance, the Hebrew you'll see right there is these names that I was referring to. The 3 letters of He, Aleph, Aleph, and then in this case, Aya, which is a feminine energy, the Yud He, gives us an angel name that could roughly be pronounced Haya. And then down here we have what looks like a Nun Tau He. And again, the Nun and Tau will be spoken as a consonant. In this case, I'm reading that He just intuitively as the vowel E, a He, right? And then the Aya. And so I would read this as Natea. Either way, this is the day and night angel of this particular period of time. Okay, and they are each the higher and lower, the dark and light, the masculine, feminine. So many ways, positive, negative polarity. Version of Mercury in Sagittarius. Okay, another way we look at that was the day and the night version. The Tree of Life and the qliphothic form of the angel. And again, masculine, feminine, and so forth. And so that's one of the ways that can be utilized, is to, from the angelic perspective, understand the polarity, i.e. that there is a difference between the passive and active version of Mercury in Sagittarius. One of them would be to think clearly, and like a flow state, and another one would be to overthink. And those two things are two sides of that same coin, right? And of course, there's two goetic demons associated with that as well. Okay, and now I have a couple of resources as well that are good. A good source for where this information comes from. The greatest source is a chart that I was very fortunate to receive. My partner reached out to Lon Milo Duquette. He's the foremost living authority on the Thelemic magical system. He wrote the book on Crowley's Tarot back in the 80s, 90s. His deck is very useful for magicians. Has this really great chart that he put together a while ago and published in one of his books. This all is based on Solomon's charts, but conveniently laid out on top of the ShemHaMephorash, and so it's a really neat way to do that. But it comes directly from Goetia, and Goetia, starting with Aries, with the first, very similar to what you do with Exodus, starting with Aries with the first demon, lay the names out. And you'll notice that they happen to fall within the 5-degree periods, and there's 72 of them going across the zodiacal wheel, 2 per 10-degree period, or 36 deacons. So the decadent. It's quite lovely, and again, very neat and tight, and packaged together as this idea of every energy in the universe has 4 versions of itself. Every thing that exists as not a duality, but as a reflection of a trinity with a fourth, of this kind of idea of 3 combining elements that make that 4th element. You'll even see this in the Rosicrucian across inside here. These 3 elements of the Aleph Mem Shin, the cardinal fixed mutable, the salt, sulfur, mercury, the holy trinity, all of these things are pointing to the same thing. Some version of a combination of these elements will give us a 4th element that is unique, and that 4th element is this beautiful burst myriad of color on the outside. This diverse garden of bounty that we call existence, and ours being one perspective looking in at that beauty. Right? So when we say these names of angels and demons, what we're doing is we're bringing attention to a part of that bounty, a part of that garden. It's like shedding a light on a certain flower, or a certain tree, or a certain bush, or a certain dark part. What about that shadowy part, Dad? Just let it roll to where the sun does not rise. So you understand. When we want to awaken certain parts of ourselves, we need only call its name, and it will arise to the attention. And this is simply a system and a means of narrowly determining what parts of ourselves are responsible for what parts of our feelings, and what parts of our feelings are responsible for saying the names of what parts of ourselves. And we learn to navigate that, and we learn to take agency and participation in the process of what we allow in and what we speak, what we hear. And in doing so, give us access to predictive power, not in the metaphysical sense, but in the sense of recognizing the trends of where things are going based on their current condition, their current environment, their current momentum, and what might come in the way to alter that, or how we might make ourselves in the way to alter that. And so we have power in sculpting, to various degrees, our experience. And so that's what this is all about. It's not about angels and demons. We're not talking about winged beings. We're not talking about... These are symbols, and they're accurate from a sense, but not in our world. In the world of archetype, above Malkut, Yesod and above, but below the abyss, this place where the 6 planets all dance looking at the 7th. And who the 7th is changes. It's not always the sun in the middle. Sometimes that perspective changes, and then this one thinks he's in the middle. And so from his perspective, the whole thing rotates into a different shape, right? And so here's what I recommend. I recommend that you grab yourself a piece of paper. You grab yourself your favorite book that you really connect with, maybe something you've connected with for years as a child and you still go back to. I know I have a couple of those. I go back to the Xanth series a lot, Piers Anthony. I go back to Clive Barker's Magick. I go back to Firefly. There's a few things that I go back to, right? And, you know, certainly the Bible is one that is such a dense thought form of a symbol system that, you know, certainly there's no confusion about what the symbols are if you chose Bereshit. I mean, it's literally God speaking the universe into creation. What better statement to use in Magick? What's this Exodus 14 talking about building pillars? I mean, we can discuss why that's there, and, you know, I kind of jest. You know, 14 is a very specific number. There's all kinds of beautiful stuff going on there. But nonetheless, Bereshit worked for me, and it developed an entire magical system from it, actually, that, you know, includes a kind of reworking the, at least this is personal, reworking the machinations of the planets and sort of looking at a different way to rotate them so that they honor the idea of the alchemical changes in states more appropriately. Drinking game, take a shot anytime I say appropriate. I don't know, I just noticed that it's like a word I say a lot. So I'm just going to kind of pause for a second, take a breath, and see, does anybody have any questions about anything I've talked about, or if anyone is interested in maybe catching a couple of cards that I'll use as an example of this process during that. And if not, I will continue, and we'll get into some maybe further stuff that I thought about talking about tonight. Much of the systems we learn are there so you can make your own personalized version. Learn to pray in a language that speaks your language so God can hear you more. That's very true. I agree with that, right? Sure. And that's one of the reasons that even Abramelin teaches us that you should not deviate from your mother religion, and that if you understood your religion, you would understand that its power is just as potent as whatever it is you think you want to move into. And so pray in your own language. I agree with that. I agree, Melly. It is beautiful. I think she hit on something there. And so, and you know, that is the, I guess, kind of the concept of what I'm talking about here. If you have an emotional connection to the information, that's more important than, you know, sort of joining some story in your mind about the power of John Dee, and so Enochian is the only language that's important, and if you don't speak Enochian with the purity of the blah blah, then the magic doesn't work, right? And you want to be one of these stuffy hermeticists, and that's okay. I think it's important because one of the things we are lacking in right now is the integrity of this art, and so it's important that we do maintain that integrity. As keepers of the flame, it's incumbent upon us to do exactly that and to stop those from profaning our art at all costs. But this certainly is not profanity. More appropriately, it's as beautiful and divine as it gets. It's understanding that the language is not as important as the thing behind the reason that you chose to speak, right? The words are simply necessitated by the will to speak. It's the will to speak that we're talking about here, and that transcends language, religion, gender, body. Language is simply a thing that we require, and so we seek out and develop. It's built in us to want to use language when we are filled with the desire to speak or listen. We need a language in order to hear, and so we create one in order that we can understand what we're coming into contact with. How do I make sense of this feeling inside? Is it love? Is it fear? Is it anxiety? Yes, depends upon the perspective. And why is 4 so important, right? Why are there 4 entities underneath? Why is the fourfold name and all that? There seems to be this idea of 4ness. And people will say, solidity and all those things, whatever the case may be. And, it really comes down to one very important, interesting factor. If you notice, 4 is the first thing below the abyss. It's the first thing that exists in the physical world. Prior to that, you're above this abyss, and these concepts are so high level that they are not physical in nature, and they kind of intermingle, and there's a lot of sort of confusion from down here when looking up. The first real physical thing is the Yud-Hey-Vav-Hey, the fourfold name, the universe made physical. Why 4? Well, because of this. This is the simplest shape that can happen in physical reality. Right? If there were only 3 points, it would be a 2D plane. You add that 4th point anywhere in the space that does not fall in that plane, and you have the simplest 3D object possible. And that is accomplished with 4 points. That's it. There's nothing magical about that. It just happens to be the reality of reality. In order for a thing to be solid, it needs to have 3 qualities. How many points, how many faces, how many edges, and it has to have at least 4 points that don't fall in the same plane. Just like the cube here. Right, the cube has all kinds of stuff going on. The cube has 8 points, 12 edges, and 6 faces, and that point in the middle. Right, and so this is a beautiful shape. The Kabbalists use the cube to determine the universe. It's why we have 12 signs. We have the 12 signs because of the 12 edges of the cube, right? And so we have the 4 edges on top, cardinal. We have the 4 edges on the sides, fixed. We have the 4 edges on the bottom, mutable. Another way of saying that is we have all the edges that are pointed forward as cardinal. The ones going side to side as fixed. The one going up and down is mutable. Either way, it's all 12 signs, or just simply the edges of the cube. That's all it is. And if you consider each court card has its own cube with those 12 entities, and they're all just perspectives. They're all just, if you're the angel standing here looking in on the inside of the cube, it looks different than if you're standing here looking in on the cube. And so each one of these edges is simply a perspective of a different angel or demon. That's all. They're not winged beings. They don't do our bidding. We activate parts of ourselves that was latent. And when it's activated, it seeks. It delegates, it employs, it communicates, it enrolls, it does all these things. So, speaking to angels is possible, real, not what people think. If you find yourself in the position of thinking that you are being attacked by a demon, we need to kind of talk about what demons are so that you understand what's correct and incorrect about that statement. And that we're clear-headed when we're thinking about these subjects, and so that we don't get lost in the maze of meaning, and we can actually make actionable change in our lives to understand that these forces do not have power over us. Something else I was going to do tonight, which I think is going to be a lot of fun, I'm going to lay out the wands from beginning to end and tell the story in one succession, because Sagittarius ends in the 8, 9, and 10 of Wand. We have Aries as the 2, 3, 4, Leo as the 5, 6, 7, and then Sagittarius as the 8, 9, 10 in the mutable, right? Wow, I love that. That's a beautiful place. Wherever you are right now, kitten, you're in a beautiful place. Isn't that great? Can you guys feel where she's at? Any other readers or magicians out there that have been in a place of using their stuff and maybe trying to look at it from a different perspective, or had trouble kind of getting into a certain frame of mind when talking about certain things or trying to access certain parts of it? This is a good place to come, because we really get to the heart of where the stuff came from, how to use it, have a much better or clearer idea of where the symbols fit into your current system, so that you can use it as a means of translating other systems. It's really something. Because it gives us all this ability to share different parts of ourselves, right? That we couldn't normally share, to see different parts of ourselves in others that we weren't able to see otherwise, because we just didn't have the vocabulary, we didn't have the understanding, we didn't have the right experience to be able to see it again. Very often we don't know what's important. There's so much going on in our world that we have to kind of parse out what's important and what isn't. And so sometimes our brain won't even pay attention to something until we've seen it more than once, so it even knows that it's worth paying attention to, right? And so you need to do this work, at least to give your brain the, kind of trick your soul into thinking, no, it's, start paying attention to these symbols. And by going through the habit of seeing those symbols more and more, you begin to use that vocabulary internally, and you'll start to see it automatically. And those patterns are just clear to you, and so it becomes your worldview. It becomes part of the way that you interact with your world. Instead of a question, it becomes understanding. You become understanding. You just become the receiver of truth. And the questions no longer exist because they aren't necessitated. And the language that you use to communicate is pure, because there's nothing else behind it than speaking the truth, and that can ring in the other so easily. It can ring with a sound. You don't even need to speak a word. And so that's how we go through that process. That's how we hear each other and recognize ourselves in the other. That's what we're here to do. That's why it's so painful when we constantly are in a state of separation. That's what we did to get here to begin with, was to fall for the fact that we're separate. To see the perspective and then stay there thinking it's the only one, and not realizing we're supposed to be jumping around that cube instead of being pulled around. And these tools can help us in that endeavor. They are not meant to lead to questions. It's meant to help you understand where you are, so that you can better understand your direction, and if it's prudent to change it or stay the course. Bit of lag here. I might actually sure how far back. Like when I popped over to YouTube to take a look at where the stream was, it is way back there. So I'm not sure actually how far, like where I am in the chat compared to. May not be so bad, but I still see the wheel on the screen, and I took that down quite some time ago. So I'm not sure. Anyway, though, that said, I'm going to lay out all of the wands and kind of talk about that a little bit. And if reading pops up in the meantime, we'll continue after. So for right now, I'm just pulling out all the wands. And I'm using the Rider-Waite for a couple of reasons. It's a very familiar system, and it's the smallest deck I have, and so it fits on the desk nice. I'll be popping up different things in the meantime as well, but actually, you know what? Let me pull out the majors related, so that we can really illustrate this. So we're looking for the Emperor, Strength, and Temperance. Him, her, him. This card is neither and both. It is the androgen. Where? There's another Temperance. And let's put these over here. Okay, you would like one. I have some blockages I'm trying to push through and trying to realign to the more positive. Great. Let's do that. Okay, so we're just going to pause this for a sec. I'm going to leave these here and we'll continue that after your reading. So, no problem. Do you mind me asking your birthday? I'd like to get your deacon, your small card for your birthday. And so I just need the month and day, or also I'll pop up the wheel so you can see it as well, like what where you fall on here. In the meantime, I'll shuffle. Cat. Okay. So Capricorn, you're the 2, 3, or 4 of discs. When you say Cap 6, I'm not sure what you mean. Are you the 2 of disc, which would be the period between December 22nd and December 30th, or would you be between December 31st and January 9th, which would be the 3 of Pentacle, of disc, or would it be the January 10th through 19th, which would be the 4? Oh, there you go. Okay, great. Great. So, and actually I'm very familiar with this energy because the Three of Pentacles, which is what we're talking about here, the December 31st through January 9th, is my rising sign. Right? My sun sign is Sagittarius, 10 of Wand. But my rising is the Three of Discs. That's ruled by the Queen of Pentacles. See that here? Oops. Sorry about that. Come on. So this right here, Three of, is part of the Queen of Discs. And she spreads from 10 of Wand up till the Three of Pentacles. That's the Queen of Discs. And so that is your court card for your sun sign. And the small card would be the Three of Pentacles, or the Three of Discs. Which is very neat. It's the idea of the building of the temple requiring an understanding of your role in the process and you being authentic to that role. And the fact, it's the recognition of the fact that the machinations of reality require an accordance between three qualities: the Aleph, Mem, Shin, the fire, water, air, the salt, sulfur, mercury, in some degree. And if there's already a salt and a sulfur present, you don't need more sulfur. You're going to have to be the mercury. Or, if you're the salt, don't try to be the sulfur, right? And so that's the first lesson of sort of the nature of your interaction with the world from the outward side, right? And what people see, and sort of the ordeal you have to overcome throughout your life. It's not something you can overcome. It's something that you will deal with. It's sort of like our karmic character, is this idea that there is a role sometimes, and it may not always be the one you want, but it's the one you're suited for. And if you really want to build a temple, then you have to kind of fulfill that. And ultimately what you'll find is from the janitor all the way up to the CEO, everyone in between was necessary for that temple to be built properly. From the architect to the guy who designed it, to the one who funded it, to the people who come to visit it and pray. We're all necessary. And so what the Three of Pentacles reminds us is that as those wheels turn, all the cogs have to work together or it won't work, right? And so I'm just going to take this from the center, put it on the bottom, and then flip the whole thing over. Let me start with the Eight of Pentacles. Now, here's what's going on here. Based on your question, this makes a lot of sense here. And so now let's talk about blockage. Capricorns have an issue with that to begin with, and I'm going to magically, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. It has to do with the Devil card and what that means. That blockage is the reason that they're stuck down there, so to speak. Why they can't ascend out of that space and sort of find themselves sometimes in a lonely place, or more appropriately, finding themselves in a place of pressure. Although at the same time, they sort of have this practicality to their thinking and can be very magnanimous in giving to people. At the same time, it's not always for the right reason, and it can wind up hurting ourselves or other people, or be looked at as be used in the wrong way, or in some cases we wind up fooling ourselves, which is the worst. If we're talking about the Eight of Pentacles from an idea here, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to craft something. It's an opportunity for you to make something, to show a piece of yourself. You've been given a chance to prove yourself. And this is the moment of that work being done. This is the moment where it's make or break, meaning that if you are patient and you know your shit and you have the courage to put it out there authentically, people will see it, and they will see it for the quality that it is. If you rush that process or are too inauthentic for the intent of trying to look like something else that you think that they want, but it's not the real you, it will be noticed and the quality will not be seen. It'll be the wrong message. You'll be giving off a fake version of yourself and you won't be viewed properly. And that includes yourself. You feel shameful when we're inauthentic, don't we? I know I do. When I know I could have done better. And so this is that warning and opportunity. It's a warning of when the knock comes, do your best work. Don't get lazy. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy about it. Put yourself out there authentically 100%. As far as the warning, if you don't do that, you'll form a bad reputation to yourself subconsciously, right? When we subconsciously don't trust ourselves, we tend to undermine ourselves by making bad decisions and justifying it by saying, well, there I go again. My XYZ, oh, I'm lazy, or I'm confused, or I'm, I can't do it because there's somebody that's in a higher level than me and I can't overcome them, and so I'm just stuck to, no, whatever. Ignore them. Ignore it. Speak your truth, and it will be recognized by those who see it. It will be ignored by those who ignore it. That will never change, no matter what you do in your life. And so just put yourself out there accurately anyway. And what are we talking about as far as astrologically? We're talking about the sun in Virgo. Imagine a wheat field. And if it's tended to properly, and you water the wheat, and you take out the dead, and you don't let the rot to stay, and you provide it water when nature doesn't, you're going to have a beautiful field of bounty. But if you're just focused on, aesthetic, you may have the first 10 rows look nice and tall, and hopefully no one sees behind, and, that's not obviously the way to do things. When it's your time to step up, do it right. Show the world your real self and take that extra step. I've often said, courage is not being afraid, it's acting in spite of fear, right? Well, there's a similar kind of idea when it comes to the mental laziness that can hit us when we get overwhelmed or afraid or think that we can't succeed or somebody else is maybe blocking us, and so it stops us from acting. It's the same thing when we hit that wall of tired, or we hit that wall of thinking that we can't. That's when we have to dig deep, and it's similar to courage. Don't expect to not be tired. Don't expect to not be scared or feel doubt in yourself. You're gonna. Act anyway. Show them who you are. And when we do that, we put our authentic self out there. And even if only 10 people see it, those 10 are gonna know we know our stuff and we believe in what we're doing. And we at least found 10 people like us. This goes for love, jobs, food, style. The fact that we, are constantly in this weird state of reinventing who we think we are by pretending in front of whoever we're in front of and hoping they don't notice that, and then we forget that they're also pretending and they know, right? So when we take agency over who we're pretending to be in that moment, and allow it to be as authentic as possible, the same thing takes place, right? I'm glad it does. And so that being said, I'm just going to pause and ask you, is there any particular part of your life you want to focus on? That it was sort of general as far as realizing to positive aspects. And another way of putting that is it's the art of being seen or heard, right? The positive means outward, active. And negative means inward, receptive. And so it's if you want to increase the positive aspect in your life, that's actually the act of being seen or being heard, being received, as opposed to receiving, as opposed to hearing, as opposed to, right? And so are you in a state of potentially maybe wanting to take a step of being a little more obvious to people, of being seen? Are you in an act of hiding and it's time to stop? Or is it the opposite of that? Should you really be asking about being open to the negative aspect? Meaning, do you need to be reminded that you have the right to receive also? Negative isn't evil, it's just receptive as opposed to active, right? It's the act of taking away. It's the act of receiving as opposed to giving. It's the act of darkness as opposed to light. And so it can be construed as bad, but there's lots of actives that are bad too, right? So what I'll do then, I'm going to leave this in the middle and I'm just going to make two piles here. We got got sun energy all over the place. Six of Cups is the sun in Scorpio. This is the sun in Virgo. And now this is different. Two of Pentacle, we're getting into Jupiter and Capricorn. This is right before your sun sign, right? This is the stage of the decision to be made. This is the stage of the moment where you appear in a place like you have it together, but don't realize that you're actually kind of in a place you want to leave. But that said, though, at the same time, there's a power that comes from that. But the stages that go through 2, 3, and 4 are the stages of building a temple and elevating yourself as a luminiferous being through that process. So once the temple is done, it becomes the beacon that activates the light that allows you to ascend, so to speak. That's all a bunch of words that are talking about a machination of very high alchemical transformation from a solid into a gas, sublimation. As Capricorn into Aquarius is the act of sublimation. So trying to break out of a hermit type. Okay, yep, there it is. And so what I'll say is that the work of the hermit is this. Sometimes the only way to find yourself is to be in the darkness, right? And so that's why you went there, because it's in that real darkness that you're forced to use something other than your eyes to see. And it forces you to kind of look at yourself in different ways and see the world in different ways. And then when you're in that process long enough, you'll start to see a light in the distance, and that's the real you. And it can only be seen in that darkness. It takes some work, right? But there is a point when it's time to emerge from that place. The wheat teaches us this. In the hermit, the symbolism of the wheat on the hermit card is the idea of that field. And it's time for you to be born. It's actually the vaginal canal. It's the birth canal. And the light you're seeing is the opening of a birth into a new world. That's the symbolism of the hermit. The Yud. Right, here's for the Rosicrucians in the room. It's the hermit. Okay, what I'm telling you is that light is not a light. That's a mirror. That's right. And that light you're seeing is you. And it's time for you to show that to the rest of the world. You see how pretty it is? That's what they're going to see. Forget about what you think they're going to see. When you're being authentic, that will be noticed. And it's okay to put yourself out there authentically without the expectation that you're supposed to fulfill a role. You're not. You're supposed to fulfill yourself. And those who also know that truth will be attracted to it like a magnet, like a resonance, like a tuning fork that vibrates when the string on the guitar, that's an F, is plucked. The F tuning fork will begin to vibrate, right, and will increase their volume. So breaking out of the hermit mode is really just a matter. I'll tell you how you do it. It's really, really easy. Hit the button. If you're thinking about streaming, just frickin' do it. If you're thinking about doing something a little more public, related to a thing, like you have an artistic expression, do it. Just do it. If you're afraid about that, engage another to help you through the process, meaning that find someone else with a passion, and the two of you can do that together and reinforce each other in that process. Find someone else that's seeking at the same time, right? Careful of the gurus. But someone who is seeking at the same time, that understands that, the fear of why you're doing this thing, and that we just kind of need each other to push you through the process of putting yourself out there, if it's a piece of artwork or music, or you're a writer, or whatever it is that you do. The Six of Cups is exactly that. It's sort of allowing yourself that pleasure. This is the Lord of Pleasure. And what that is see the light side of stuff, but also see the opportunities in it for transformation. The Sun in Scorpio is, in a sense, a selfish card. It's talking about the idea that you deserve good things too. And you deserve to see good things without, having to have it with a dose of cynicism, right? Like, can't we just enjoy good things without having to feel guilty about it? Sometimes, and it depends upon what it is you're trying to express in your life. and Jupiter in Capricorn, really something special, because it's like it's the beginning of the decision to take the thing that you know inside or above and make it real here, to build the temple in the real world. You know, like for instance, to the magicians out there, it's when you build your own tarot deck. It's when you put together your own pentacle, your own personal pentacle. It's when you write your own ritual. You know, to the artists and the painters out there, it's when you challenge yourself with that medium that you've been afraid of, right? Oh, you're welcome, I appreciate it. So I would say that's it. And you know what? You're in a good place for that. Pop into the Discord as that gets more active. I'm brand new back to YouTube. I streamed for years and stopped, and I just came back a couple days ago, so I have like zero audience, zero stuff going on in the Discord right now. But I put all my documents up there. For instance, this rose here on the left-hand side. This is mine. I created it, every stitch of the image. It's based on the Golden Dawn, but it's mine. And so feel free to take it, use it, without attribution, share it to the world. There's one thing in here that I didn't change on purpose, which is the swap on Aquarius. So Tsadi is actually on the Emperor, and Hay is in Aquarius. That's a very specific thelemic machination of the astrological system that I agree with. Tsadi is not the star. Tsadi is Aries. But I left it there anyway because so many people use that system that I got tired of explaining it. And so to the magicians, they know to do that swap, and I teach that swap. And so publicly I put this one out, and privately I use the one swapped. But that said, this is available to everyone. This wheel is there as well, the tree. I have... I'm going to be putting up my Enochian stuff as well, including the 3D. So those who can't afford to make or buy a tablet can have a grand tablet and actually get a sense of what we're talking about in this stuff. Right? And at least be able to utilize it from their perspective to understand what's being spoken, to understand the machinations, so that they can maybe then take the step of deciding to make one. Anytime, Millie. And please share it, whether that means that you just give it a quick like and a comment, or let people know what we got going on here is different than your normal, stranger telling lies on the internet. I really appreciate it. Thank you for popping in. Start breaking out of the Hermeticism. Okay, yeah. Ah, the bubble bath. Sure. Yeah. Little self pampering. Sure, yeah, no problem. I'm glad. Next step is yours, right? Put that thing out there. I don't care what it is, just do it. Put it out there. What's the worst thing that can happen? People don't like it. They don't like you. They call you a terrible person. Right? No. It's whatever it is you think is coming, whatever the fear. It's so funny. It's never what we think. But yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm glad. I tried to speak the truth and get out of my own way, right? So, and all kinds of fun too. When you're talking about building a system of angel names, or you develop your own ShemHaMephorash based on, a piece of poetry or a book or something, right? That we talked about here by laying out your letters and so forth. What it also does is it has machinations related to gematria. These names have a numerical value. And so within your system, your angel of Sagittarius is going to have a different numerical value. And so you can go through the process of gematria, find these angel names, do the math, and you can discover some qualities about those areas. The sigils will be different. All of these things are going to be unique to you. And so by invoking the image in your mind of that sigil, by understanding the quality of that number from its perspective of the gematria, while speaking that unique name and hearing it in your voice, is so powerful for waking that part of yourself up and beginning to invite a conversation. It's what we're doing already. Your soul is always talking. And those of us with the ears to hear recognize, and when we truly listen, it gives us the opportunity to realize the truth, which is that we're the ones speaking. Like, when we are in a state of truly listening, it gives us the opportunity to know the will behind the reason to speak to begin with. Why did they choose to speak? What was the meaning? What drove them? And so when we understand that, and we understand the why, together we can become the thing that was spoken. Together we can become the thing that started the whole universe. The thing that was there all along. That light in the distance that we mistook as somebody else and realize now is a reflection of ourselves. And so if that's the case, when I was seeing that light, I thought I was listening, but it turned out, no, I was the one speaking. And I simply heard myself. And in that moment became both the speaker and the listener. I became the thing spoken. Bang! And then we get below the abyss. We get Hesed, we get Gibora, we get Tiferet, we get Netzach. And so, all the way back up. Or we could just take the middle pillar and, meet in the middle and stay there forever. It's so nice there. It's quiet. It's a joke for the Rosicrucians in the room. Silence has a right to be heard. There's some beautiful symbols in the wands. Wand is the symbol of fire, which is the symbol of Yud, that original light. This one we keep talking about. Was I the one shining, or is that the light that I saw? Am I looking in the mirror, or am I looking out into darkness? Am I just the eye of Binah that can take it all in, or am I actually a bell that rings it back out? That's yes. And what the wand teaches us is our role in that process, as far as the catalyst, the heat behind it, the reason behind speaking, right? We get into the cup and the sword, right? The idea of, there you go, that's right. That spark. The sword is the act of speaking, right? The pentacle is the thing spoken. Right? But there's this original idea that's born that necessitates the whole thing, right? It necessitates the creation of identity so that we can talk through that identity. It necessitates the creation of a vocabulary so that we can feel we're understood. Since we are sharing a vocabulary, I can know that they know the words I'm going to use, right? If in fact your desire is to be understood, then that's handy. All of that's necessitated by that. And so it's that original spark that starts it all off. And of course the wands are the story of that process from the perspective of that spark, of that want, of that original need to be heard. And we start that off with Aries. Aries is the beginning of the wheel. And like we talked about before, when I was going over the machinations of the tree with respect to the descending and the order of the planets being a specific order based on that, we notice that there's 2 Marses that meet. Gosh, I keep doing that. I'm so sorry, guys. I threw this together with duct tape. This here is the 2, 3, 4 of Wands. The beginning of the, well, everything. It's the start of the wheel. It's the beginning of the zodiac, right? It's when we start at spring, at the equinox. It's the beginning of the tarot with respect to the story of the Fool, right? The march of the whole story. The Fool's journey, whatever you want to call it nowadays. And so we begin at Mars and then continue along. But we see this as cardinal fire, which again, cardinal, fixed and mutable. These are other words for the alchemical process of the salt, sulfur, and mercury. And now Aries is sulfur. Aries is the fire of the cardinal. This is the original spark, right? It's the flash that begins the element, and so it's as fiery as it gets. You have fire, Mars, Aries. It's even surrounded by fire on both sides in Mars and the Sun, right? There's this definite vibe of that. Leo, Sagittarius. Okay, and now within each of these, we have 2, 3, and 4. And there you have 5, 6, and 7. Pardon me for dropping the cards over there. And then let's get the 8, 9, and 10. Alrighty, now let's just separate these to have them here. And then finally, there we go. Alrighty, there you go. So, this is Aries. So when you're looking at this wheel, this is Aries. It's basically the Emperor. I'm just going to put that up here. The Emperor. And then underneath the Emperor are these 3 cards. And so it's telling the story of the beginning of fire. The Rider-Waite illustrates it in an interesting way with the idea of like the spark of the desire for adventure, looking at that world and looking at all the possibility that's out there. And you've got this person standing there waiting, looking ready. And there's this other wand here that implies that there's another that this person is waiting for to join them on that journey. Now here we have this person is looking out at these boats that are leaving, and again, there seems to be a state of waiting. My arrow is still on? Okay. All right, well, should I move it here? Or maybe over there? Or perhaps here, let's poke Ganesha in the nose. So, that's right, it's poop Ganesha. He likes it. So, and this is a person that typically is very similar to the 3 of Pentacle that we talked about, is a supportive role. This is the person that convinces people that it's possible, helps them along that path, helps them with that dream, and is in a state also of looking out and at all the possibility. But has taken a more active role. This one is no longer behind the stone, standing on top, looking down. The steps are getting ready to be taken. And this is a journey that's actually going to happen. And then we get to this 4, and there's this beautiful image of a homecoming, right? It looks like somebody built like a welcoming canopy for somebody, a chuppah, which is basically a ritual space for union to take place, right? It's like an altar to union. And this period of time is very sort of innocent, in a sense. It's a brave innocence. It's an adventurous time of ideas flowing, and of the opportunity to enroll others in that process, to convince the people who share what you have that together you can make that happen. And there's different machinations of that occurring here. And this is really that beautiful card of finding your people. Which is possible. We're out there. We're all just seeking each other, and one day we'll find each other. And now moving in, let's make some more space here. Put the Emperor down here. Okay. And now we'll get our 4, 5, 6, or the 5, 6, 7 rather. And the 5, 6, 7 is a little more active of a vibe here. We have strength, also known as lust, in the Crowley-Filth system. Very, very powerful magic. It's pretty esoteric, and so I won't get too much into it tonight. With respect to the Thelemic and Hermetic concept of Tet and the whole idea of the serpent and whatnot. We're just going to talk about Leo, the lion, and with respect to the wands right now. The fixed fire. If this is the cardinal fire, Leo is fixed, right? And so let's just make that clear from the perspective of we have Leo is fixed fire. Okay. Fixed is the salt of the alchemical process. We have the salt, sulfur, and mercury, and Leo is the fixed, or the salt of that combination. The thing that makes it real. The solidifying agent. And what we have here as far as in the story of the wands, starting with the 5, is it looks like a big fight going on, right? But it's not. This is a bunch of kids playing with their toys. This is the moment of deciding who's who. So we get out there and everyone puts their 2 cents in, and everyone shows everyone their nunchuck skills, and everyone shows them their, and eventually a victor will be chosen, right? There's going to be either a level of authenticity in a certain individual, or a level of power, or a level of leadership. Whatever the case may be, regardless of the why, although it is important, a leader will be chosen. Sometimes the wrong leader is chosen for the wrong reason, and we all suffer, and sometimes the right leader is chosen. But nonetheless. And then we have that leader right here put up on that pedestal, right? There they are. They're adorned with the crown of victory before they've even had the real fight. That's coming. They, they've been decorated like, yay, this person's, and all the people are just cheering on their champion. Some people have earned that seat, and they're still in for a fight, but they're at least prepared. Some people haven't earned that seat, and they're in big trouble when they get to that 7. And so are all those people that trusted them. And we're going to talk about why in a moment here, because it turns out not everyone's got your back when you think they do.
Speak your mind, even if you are a minority
Okay.
of one. The truth is still the truth.
And then we have the period of time we've just entered.
Especially ignorant people
Okay.
want to punish you for
Period of time we just entered. And that period of time is Sagittarius, which is symbolized by temperance in the Rider-Waite, or art, in the Thoth system. And what this refers to is a very high alchemical magic of dissolution. It's of two becoming one. It's of the dissolving of the self into the other, and the other into you, so that there's one thing elevated. It's the moment of dissolve. Let's move this out of the way so that they're not conflicting idea here. And then we have the 8, 9, and 10. Now, the 8 is always viewed, especially by those who kind of are reading the book definitions, and the book definitions are actually not bad. It just doesn't hurt to know where that came from. Like, the book definition of this is high energy, fast movement, motion, flying, blah, blah. All those energies come from a very specific symbol, and that symbol is, very simply, Mercury in Sagittarius. Okay? Mercury in Sagittarius. Mercury is, quick and energy and mental and fastness and all these things, and fire and mutability. It all lends to that. And so this is one of the more active symbols of the tarot, is that quick moving Mercury vibe. Right? And that's what we're talking about here in that 8. So many ways to symbolize this, and I encourage you to do that as much as possible. That's right. Yeah, choosing to see the best in people, I love that. I love that. And actually, more appropriately, I want to reword that, okay? Learning to see ourselves in people. Being okay with realizing that there's a little piece of us in everyone we see. And so it's really learn to love ourselves and learn to see ourselves in the other, right? And that's so true. Thank you, Millie, because it is. That's a great insight. It's not always easy when somebody is responsible for injury or harming you, or intentionally or not, or somebody whose ignorance causes pain and suffering, or, there's all kinds of where it's difficult sometimes to do that, right? Let's be honest. I don't really see Hitler being on anyone's Christmas list anytime soon. I don't see people like some of the tyrants of time, warranting any kind of forgiveness. But of course, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that love ourselves and be sensitive enough to see ourselves in the other. And then we could see how hard it is to judge, how hard it is to ignore that we know people are, in a lot of cases, are just crying out, lonely, want to be seen, and are just trying to belong. And that's what all this is, right? This whole thing is really speaking to that. This stage here, the person on top, whether or not they earn the right to be there, they're just happy people are looking at them, right? All the people that are looking at that person, they're just happy they get to be part of that group. They're just glad to be in that crowd, man. This person is going through stuff. This person is in the middle of a battle, and they're alone. Suddenly, all these people that were there rallying with them are just watching while suddenly the fight begins and they're all by themselves, although they have the high ground. And this whole battle culminates to this moment at the 9. And in the 9, we have this injured person standing all by himself. Where is everybody? The fight's over, but I'm alone. So much for having my back. Yeah, no, it turns out they didn't. They just were married to an idea of who you were. They were married to the idea of what we could all do together. But now the club changed, and so everyone dispersed to go join a new club. And so you find yourself in this very awkward state of being alone. And there's a sense of injury to it as well. Right? And that's That's where we get the symbol for the moon in Sagittarius. It's sort of like a darkness. There's sort of an aloneness to it. There's kind of like an idea of the shadow. The recognition that the loyalty you thought you had was really just aesthetic. And when the shit hit the fan, everyone dipped. And there's the moment of you having to come to the conclusion, and this isn't always easy in this stage, that there's nothing you could have done. It wasn't like you weren't enough. It was just that there was never actually any loyalty, right? There was never actually any honesty in this moment here. And so you wind up finding yourself alone in that process. And then it's the slow work of the recognition of the fact that that was the case, coming to terms with who you are, and then picking up those pieces to build the pyre. Taking on the responsibility of carrying that weight, because you realize that you're the only one that can do it. And it's not even a matter of recognition, although sometimes it's painful that we don't get it. Or that we feel like it's our duty to do that when we didn't sign up for it. Or, you know, maybe you just get tired. But the lesson of the Ten of Wands is very beautiful, and what it is that any time that you want to, you can drop those wands. It's not your job, necessarily. And we do have the capacity to use a filter of who we decide to carry, and who we decide to give our talent and love and energy to. Yes. Yeah, and let's even again kind of change that word a little bit. Instead of rejection, we can say maybe boundaries, right? I know I have an issue with boundaries. I'm a wide open book that just wants to help everyone, and I can get very personal, and you know, it's difficult for me to say no, right? I'm one of those people too. So rejection is protection. More appropriately, discernment, right? It's okay to have a little bit of a screen. It's okay to have boundaries. Other people will. But what's really happening here is that this is a path of you going through the experience of being ready to build that pyre and jump in. The dissolution of the self through flame. Which leads us to Capricorn. The Two of Pentacles, the building of the temple, and the state of redemption. The redeeming of the devil into the star, where it pours out as a luminous being. It starts over. Pisces is that light being rained down as water in the moon. And then we start back at Aries. It's a quite lovely story. And when you read the story in the appropriate language, i.e. the certain symbols, it can really be something. It can really tell a completely different tale. But of course it isn't. It's just the story told in the words that our heart speaks. And so it just rings true the whole time, and you can understand what redemption means and sacrifice. This is a sacrificial moment. This is Christ carrying his cross. This is what he gets for fighting for everybody. Where was everyone that had his back? Right, and so this is the idea of that story. And ultimately, there has to be the choice where you have the recognition that it wasn't for what I thought. I wasn't here to build a community of people to have my back. I was here to build a community of people that needed the truth. And when this story is done being told, they will know it. And the temple that's built will be a place they can come back to and share that story and to feel it and to take their own journey to awaken that. And so, yeah. And now what is this all leading to? But there it is. What it's leading to is new life. If we consider this story with respect to the signs, and we find ourselves in Scorpio. Scorpio is death. And what does that mean? Well, it's the heat of the orgasm. Death. There's a reason that those two words are put together, death and orgasm. And what is Sagittarius but the heat during that moment, right? This is the steam, the fixed water. And here, that is that heat that applies to that. And what winds up happening is it's during Sagittarius that those energies swap. And it turns the receptive into the active and the active into the receptive. And so the active masculine energy of the giver turns into the receiver, and she is the one pouring out. That's Aquarius. Aquarius is the act of her pouring out. And how does that happen? Well, it swaps from the masculine energy of the active giving and the feminine reception, moving into the feminine being the one that speaks. The bell ringing. An empty cup rings like a bell. Well, what does that look like? It looks like a cup, which is a female symbol, being filled up, right? And then what happens when it's filled? It spills out. It spills out. That's the feminine act of speaking. That's a very active, quote, masculine, but that's not the word. It's a positive energy as opposed to a receptive. And so that's how a woman becomes a man in the magical world. That's how a man becomes a woman in the magical world. He receives his mate, his woman, and he takes on the feminine receptive role of receiving her. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like a female orgasm. It looks like a cup being spilled. It's Aquarius in her ecstatic state of knowing herself, and in that moment, emptying and ringing like a bell. And what does that look like? Well, Pisces. It looks like the moon. It looks like the drips of dew that give birth to the new object of desire. And Aries runs toward it. And the whole thing starts over, right? So Sagittarius is a very interesting time, because what it is an opportunity to change gender. It's an opportunity to feel the other side. It's an opportunity to recognize that if you're a man, you have a chance to be overcome, to be filled up. And if you're a woman, you have the capacity to be received. How powerful is that? That's what we're here to do. We're here to know each other, and then through that process to be introduced to ourselves in a way that we never thought possible. And the machinations of that are laid out. They're laid out in the I Ching as this beautiful story of the unfolding of the 8 elements, which are really just the points of the cube, the 8 points of a cube. You'll see the court cards in the bottom right there as different machinations of the I Ching. It's all connected. The Goetic system is very simply different versions of that process, right? You know, there's ways that you can touch yourself emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, that are all received differently and have different ways that you can interpret it. And each one of these spirits is a different angle, a different perspective on that sensation that's being created in that conversation, in the act. And of course, this is a beautiful dance of watching the whole thing happen all at once. Your Astro Weather Forecast. You have a very high chance of getting smacked around by karma tomorrow. Don't worry, it's just a little wind. That's why God invented the lantern, to prevent that light from being blown out. Of course, that's what the hermit is. The hermit is a lantern. And what does the lantern do? It protects the light from the wind of the mind. Don't worry about the breeze that happens when you're overwhelmed by symbols. And just recognize that we're all doing the same thing. We're all in the state of descending on one side, ascending on the other, and meeting ourselves in the middle. all we're doing. And if we fulfill our destiny, just don't miss the colors. That's what we're here for, right? Right now it is, yeah. Let's jump back. What are we at right now? That just happens to be the pattern of the sky over where I am right now. Well, close to where I am. I'm not exactly in Barberton, but close. But you get the idea. It is beautiful, isn't it? You put it right here, and it's almost like it was meant to be. So that said, though, once you know one language, you know them all. Once you can feel with a sufficient amount of sensitivity in one part of your body, you can teach the rest of your body to speak that same language. Once you understand how to poke at the right parts of your brain to have a certain effect, you understand how to create that effect in other people, in other parts of your life, in other parts of matter. And so all this is just a way to translate between one modality into another, one worldview into another, and to find different opportunities for ideas that weren't so clear, but turn out to be very intuitive. And it also gives us a little bit of a sense of what we're all talking about when we throw around these words. Cardinal, fixed, mutable, salt, sulfur, mercury, aleph, mem, shin. You know, it doesn't matter what club you belong to, so you have to use their vernacular. They're all speaking the same truth. And just, you know, you can go into a church and hear the truth. You can go into a synagogue and hear that same truth. You can go into a rave and hear it in the music. Read the melody. Feel it. Become it. Let it carry you. It's like floating with the current. It becomes easy. You end up having the momentum of an entire river behind you, so the flow is natural. So, there's a couple of angels that I've been working with. I've done a lot of work with recently, related to Mercury, related to some of the machinations of the alchemical process as related to the tarot, so that I can use it as a way to translate some of these secrets that are in the Bible. And not secrets because they're hidden, but secrets because they've been misunderstood. Let's see here. Do you want to do a collective I Ching? Sure. Okay. All right. Yeah, we can do the Bible stuff after. I think that there's there's a lot of kind of connection between the two, that maybe we can find some shared wisdom, you know. You want to look up Melly's angels and demons based on her birthday? We can do that as well. Sure. Okay. Well, if we're looking at your sun sign, let's say it was January 6th, right? Yeah, I think that's correct. And so let's just pop up. Actually, I have my paper version. Okay, I can actually illustrate it on the screen. There you are. Look at this monster. That's quite a little chart. But no, this is actually very easy, and again, I have to thank Lon Milo Duquette for he publishing this and for allowing it to be distributed, and it's just really great. I appreciate that. I'm glad. Thank you. What I'm trying to do is to contribute understanding, right? And so what this is showing here is the letters started from the left to right, and then right to left, and then left to right of the ShemHaMephorash, right? The Exodus 14, verse 19, 20, and 21. And then you'll notice that there's various other information in here related to the names, the angel name pronounced, and then on here are the 2 demon names. And so you'll see every small card, which is a 2-degree or a 10-degree period of time, has 2 angels and 2 demons associated with it, right? And so Leo has 6 total entities up here and 6 total entities down here for a total of 12, which is its own little mini zodiac. Each one of these angels and demons is related to like an equivalent of a sign from the perspective of that symbol. And so in your particular case, we're going to wind up going over to Capricorn and looking at it that way. And so now, do you know what time of day you were born? Because essentially the time of day will determine if it's your day or night angel or demon, and so you can get a little more specific about which entity we're talking about here. If you were born before or after the midpoint of the day, but so noon is relatively accurate. Essentially the midpoint of the day, right? Like sunrise till sunset, divide by 2, that's the midpoint. If you were born before that, you're the day, and then after that. And it's the same thing when you're doing the demons. You start at sunset to sunrise, cut that in half, and you have the day and night version by looking at the very late evening. Okay, good. So we're looking at the evening angel. For the 2 of Pentacles. And so the letters, let me get this up here for you. First thing we're going to do, let me get that sigil here. I'm going to put it on here for you. This was just some work I was doing with Bereshit. This is that first line of the Bible. Took every word, first letter of each word equals 22, which is the number of letters in the Hebrew alphabet. The Tamura is 12. So we have the Zodiac. This is some interesting stuff. But I'm going to leave that. And put that on the bottom. I've never known how do you go down a line in Hebrew. It's really, really weird because the way God help me. What I'm going to do is select all, cut it, enter twice, paste, and then move back up to. Right. I'm the frickin' human. All right, so that said, what we're going to do here is write down the English for, let me save this document so you guys can see what I was just rambling on about. Okay, there. All right. I'm going to be putting your text on the top up there. Okay, and so just to be clear, we are looking at, sorry, I'm boring, I got old. So here, I have a little ball I'm going to use actually to help that one. Let's just take a look at it. There's Capricorn, 0 to 10. and you're in that 5-degree period. And so the letters are Thou, Shin, Resh. Right? Not you're in the later. You're the 5 to 10. You're the 5 to 10, right? So that's Thou, Shin, Resh, and then the suffix is Aya. So Thou, Shin, Resh. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here. Thou, Shin, Resh. And then Aya. Okay. And now, if we wanted to go ahead and do a sigil for that, jump over here. Okay, and so we're going to, starting at the bow. And now magically, again, the hay and the tzadi get swapped. So I'm going to go to the tzadi. And then to the resh. And then to the yidel. So this is a sigil for that angel. And also at the same time, let me jump back over here. There is a numerical value to this angel name. Let me save that so you can see what I'm doing here. So, okay. Right, and so Val is 6. Right, and actually let me pop that rose up so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Okay, there we go. Each letter has a numerical value associated with it, right? And so each one of these letters has a vowel sound, a consonant sound, and a numerical value. And so you can refer to this chart here as we go through this process to see where I get these values from, okay? So, for instance, Vow is number 6, right? Shin is number 300. Resh is 200. So that's 506. The Yud is 10. So that's 516. And Hey is 5. So that's 521, right? So 521 is the value of this name here. And the sigil for that is this, okay? And so we go over to 521. Take a look at that. Here. 521. Oops. And here we go. This is the section for 521. It's the 98th prime number. It reduces to an 8. And what does that mean? Well, that means that you can take the digits of 521 and add them up, 5 plus 2 plus 1, and that equals 8. And so it gives us a little bit of an idea, like from a Sephirotic perspective, it refers to the 8th Sephira, right? Which in this case is Mercury, Hod, H-O-D, Hod. And if we look on the tree, let me jump back in here, you'll see that Hod is that 8th Sephira on the Tree of Life. Okay. And in the end, at last, traffic wears present. Okay. Yah is giver, beautiful. Through visions. Round about the tabernacle. But now, essentially, the process here is you would derive the sigil and have that in your mind. If it helps, draw it up on the wall or on yourself. Oh, you don't have to apologize for being there. Listen, honey. A wizard is never late. She arrives exactly when she meant to. So you can't be late, love. Are you kidding me? So, when you have this sigil in your mind, speak the name at the same time, right? And so, for instance, you could speak this name as Veshria or Vashria, right? Vashre. There's a lot of ways that you can decide to pronounce this word, and it's sort of up to you. And magically, I think it's relevant to the number of syllables when speaking that word, right, Melly? So if you wanted to make something solid in your mind, right, use 4 syllables, because that's the idea of below the abyss and solidness. And so I would pronounce this with 4 syllables. Veshareya, right? Or some form of that. You get to kind of choose the vowel in between the V and the SH. Va, ve. The vowel is the O sound, right? It's the O sound. And so you could say something like Vash, Rea, Vashare, or And then again, it's up to you to play with those vowels and kind of get a mouth pattern that feels comfortable to say. But when you're saying that in the number of chosen syllables, envision the sigil in your mind at the same time, drawing it one stroke at a time. So like kind of imagine as you're speaking the name, when you hit that sound in your mouth, hit that spot of the sigil in your mind. So you're drawing the sigil at the same time as speaking the word, and so you're actually creating them at the same time. And now if you use the sigil in space, meaning that you actually draw the sigil on paper, on parchment, or painting, or even a chalk on a piece of slate, it's actually speaking it while it's present in your vision. So anytime you're looking, like if you have it down on a here's one example of one I put together on a piece of parchment. Right, it's real parchment, and this is specifically to the angel Vaheyu. The demon is Belitz, and this is for the 5 of Wand in Leo. Right, this is a Leo pentacle that uses that sigil, the Hebrew, the name of the demon, and so on. But that said, as long as this is present in the magic, it's speaking that name. There it is, and the name is visually being spoken, as well as through my understanding of what that means when vocalized. And that's really the basis for all Solomonic magic. The idea of understanding the quality of the entity, speaking its name to draw attention to the fact that you are aware of its existence, thus creating it, and then inviting it to have a conversation, and having some level of authority over it so that it doesn't control the conversation. That's really what we're talking about. And so if you were going to decide that you wanted to go about that work, that's one of the machinations. Find the letters, draw the sigils, speak the name at the same time. Go ahead and do the numerology if you want to get a sense of if there's anything that you want to avoid in that process or that's more relevant to the work that you're doing, right? And certainly that's a higher level magic than maybe some of the current understandings of tarot and what it could be used for. But essentially that lets you take the card from that period of time and have it in your mind as well. So between the sigil and the name being spoken, your understanding of the planet and sign concept and what that idea is really trying to say, and then at the same time have the card out, it's almost like a talisman to the magic, right? The tarot card itself is a talisman. That's what these are. And they're the talismans for the sign and planet combinations, for the machinations of the different areas of the tree, for the different sub-angles on the Great Tablet, right? The Black Cross, the Tablet of Union. Well, that's good. I mean, we sort of want all the little bits and pieces of our lives to be helping us. And let's be honest, some of them just won't, but nonetheless. Sometimes they try to take over and wind up helping us anyway. Because ultimately they are us. That's the whole point of this conversation, right? The angels and demons are parts of us that we wake up in the universe. To quote Lon Milo Duquette, it's all in your head. You just don't realize how big your head is. Baal? Yeah, that's a biggie. Baal is another Baal. It really is the idea of Taurus, right? If you're talking about Baal, you're talking about Taurus. Right? Taurus is the Jesus symbol as the bull, right? That's why the bull was destroyed when the new symbol came into play. And so, you know, we went from the idea of the bull, which is also, again, one of the fixed signs, and so it goes along with Leo, the lion, the rock, the fish, the fish of Jesus. You know, the Aries, which is the lamb, all that stuff. And so the Baal really comes from the Taurus, the age of Taurus, right? It's that same symbol of the taurinary where you have Mithras is stabbing the bull, who is licking, and the dog is licking the wound, and, you know, Scorpio on the testicles. That whole symbol of the end of the age of Taurus is referring to that same energy of Baal, which is in that idea of vowness. Vow is a very specific type of energy with respect to the Kabbalistic system. Right. And Belit is your guardian, okay? And so Belit is what I was talking about before. I don't know when you popped in. Like, this is a parchment that I use as a seal when working with Belit. Right. It's the strength card, Lust. It's Leo. It's the first 10-degree period of Leo, 5 of Wands, which is ruled by the Prince of Wand. And it's Saturn in Leo. Beautiful energy. And that's the angel equivalent of the Belit demon. Pardon me. Right? This is the angel of the equivalent of the Belit demon. And that's Bahela. So, yeah, there's all kinds of great personalities in there that we can get to know if we just were open enough to realize that we're not talking about winged things that want to eat your soul, right? Yeah, so there's a lot of good angel and demon decks out there, and I think it's very important that we approach them from the perspective of understanding what we're talking about here, and so that we know that we can use those same angel archetypes to understand the tarot better. We can use the tarot to understand those angels better. We could use the Goetia to have a much better understanding of the dark nature of some of these light angels. We can have the ShemHaMephorash to give us a much better understanding of the light side of these darker elements of ourselves, right? Because ultimately, when you're looking at Belits, you're looking at also one of the qualities of a very highly angelic being, and Belit is just its dark side, right? We all have that same machination inside of us. We all have that same decision making about, you know, the angel and the devil on the shoulder. A good wolf and a bad wolf fight for your soul. Careful which you feed. That's sort of true. I think another way to put that, T, when you shine light, you give birth to shadow. And so it's the person holding the lantern that chooses the direction the shadows walk, right? That choose the direction the shadows take. It's the person with the lantern that's the one with the power. There are no shadows in darkness. Everyone's equal. But when the light shines, it reveals the shadows. It reveals the things that are blocking. It reveals the falsehood. And so the one holding the lantern is the one that has the power, right? I hope that made sense. Okay, yeah, I agree. So how are you doing tonight, love? What's going on? So I'm glad your heat's working. Dude, listen, just for people that don't realize, Tanamera is in fucking Canada. You want to talk about cold? You know, I mean, some of us up here in the northern part of the United States, we know cold. But we don't know cold. That's like saying a billionaire knows what money is. No, try and actually, you know, like having, you know, generational wealth of like a kingdom, right? You know, cold, Canada. So, man, I'm so happy that your heat is working, and that's not a time for that to go out, right? I don't know. We had one snow that sort of wasn't even a thing. It was sort of slushy and didn't stick around, and I wasn't, so I want my snow already. Right? Yeah, I know the heat goes on at a certain temperature, and whatever the case may be. It's one of those things. And you're on the top, which means it's going to be boiling hot up there. Sort of feast or famine, right? Yeah, and it's back to Melly there. That's the analogy is a very powerful and dangerous tool when you're addressing spiritual topics, because it's easy to get lost in the maze of meaning, but it's also very good to connect to other ways of understanding. And in that connection, to uncover insights into the things that you already know, but from a different perspective, right? That's used a lot in consulting and business. And it's highly effective as a method of, reevaluating a weakness in your supply chain, a weakness in your client base, a weakness in certain parts of your organization that you may not have considered, by being able to kind of see a thing you already understand and are able to manage and measure and calculate, but from a different perspective can be completely obvious. So, it comes down to, like, once you know who you are, you'll better understand how to communicate properly what that is, right? You can more authentically communicate what that is. Once you know what it is that you're actually seeking, you know how to call its name, so it pays attention to you. Or you can see a thing that you thought you wanted and realize, oh crap, I dodged a bullet. Right. To all you youngins in the crowd, MacGyver was a guy who could put together, like, he could, like, defuse a bomb with a toothpick. Right? MacGyver was a character on TV that was known for solving a problem with whatever he had in his pockets. And a solid understanding of physics and mechanics and electrical. And so by MacGyvering the thing means that you just, like, owned it with your wit. And you told it, I'm the human. Huh, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was a pretty dense night, right? We went through basically in a basic kind of manner, but we went through the entire story of the wands. Looked at the different machinations of the majors, at least from a base perspective, right? We talked about angels and demons and how we derive the names in the ShemHaMephorash, the Goetia, some of the ways that we can utilize some of that information to better understand the different parts of the tarot and where these symbols come from the descending on the tree and the order of the planets. We talked about understanding who we are in that process, and so we know whether we need to keep going or get something out of our way, right? Oh, I hope so. I appreciate that. I never know if any of the information that I give out in the live stream is caught later, and I'm not sure if I should sort of curate it or just keep going, but I find that this is the best way, because you wind up bumping into people who are real seekers, and they'll reach out if they want to do more, learn more, right? Like, I teach this stuff for free. I don't charge for what I do. Is he? Yeah, good. The world needs more people like that. They could just, like, pull something out of their pocket and fix it, right? That's, like, not afraid to go grab the duct tape and say, I got this. And the beautiful thing is the bravery of people like your dad or MacGyver. These people their confidence leads to innovation. Right? It's not guaranteed that whatever kind of nonsense fix that they're about to pull out is going to work, but when it does, they learn some shit, and people are going to learn from them. And that's where we get shortcuts and all this kind of stuff, right? So way to go, Amelie's dad. Sounds like my kind of guy. a membership tier. Yeah, I wasn't sure actually, because I considered that before, and I'm not actually sure how to go about that, because again, you can pay me to lie to you, but the truth is free, and I don't know how to go about that. Now, if I were to do which I do all the time, a one-on-one training in tarot, and be there to answer questions directly, for it to be several hours, a few times, to get someone to a point, and then to support them in some type of reading situation a couple of times. I do all the time, and as like a jumpstart for people who are already readers that need to kind of take it to the next level. But I'm not even sure how to, after I move, I'll be able to pitch in more and get rid of that motto. Which motto? Oh, yeah, sure. That's just it. Welcoming abundance is a good way of putting it, because, oftentimes it's really the subconscious recognition that we pretend that we don't deserve a thing, and we need to let go of that and realize we do. And not from some entitlement, but more appropriately from recognizing who we are, and that it's okay to want as well as give. It's okay to take sometimes as well as be the provider all the time. Oh, I need to drop the motto that the truth is always free? I can't. It's who I am. Are you kidding me? I'd love to charge all kinds of money to do this and whatever, but I can't. It's too easy for me to do this, and I feel bad charging for it. If I'm going to teach you to do what I do, then that's a different story, and we can talk about an appropriate fee to learn the machinations of the process. But, that's that. I kind of asked if people want to support what we're doing through donation. That's great. I do sell tarot decks. I sell incense. I sell magical items that I produce. This is a different story, right? So if you want to buy a Sigilum de Emet made by a ceremonial magician out of obsidian, then I'm your guy. And I have no shame in selling that. It took me time and effort. Right? If you want to buy a tarot deck, then that's a different story. If you want to, purchase a seal made out of parchment, then that's a different story. But, like my graphics and my other work, this is available to the community to spread without attribution, for the purpose of facilitating magical education and the maintaining of the integrity of our art, right? That's what we're here to do. And I believe wholeheartedly that I will benefit in the way that I'm supposed to allow that to happen, and I will become richer by making others richer. And we all grow together. That's really it. I know it sounds lofty and ridiculous and elitist to think that, but the reality is that's how I feel. But yeah, I don't know how to really charge without feeling a certain way about it. And so that's how I've been approaching it. And but there are certain things I do charge for. But certainly not tarot readings, but on a small scale. I do much larger readings where I, do the full court, going through every sign and planet, looking all the combinations, doing all of the correlations with I Ching and everything else, and providing a full sort of synopsis. And really, what is that but an excuse to teach the truth behind what's being done here, right? It's an opportunity for you to elicit a very specific response in the person who's asking, so that they can take this information and use it to actually get to know themselves, use it to actually awaken latent parts of their creativity that they didn't know that they had, languages that they didn't know they had fluency in, right? Desires that they were afraid to express that they can now run with in confidence. That's what we're here to do. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly that, right? And then what winds up happening when we do that is that we wind up creating a new thing. It's the same thing as two atoms popping together. There's an exchange of photons, and energy states go up and drop back down. Light gets ejected, and there's a new atom. And that new atom is heavier, denser, more energetic than the old one. And then you start to create gravity, which develops a sort of a dynamic system of sustainability. And then you wind up getting a sustainable nuclear reaction, and a star is born. Right? So an exchange of energy is the opportunity for a star to be born. And that's why this is so great, to have a medium where we can get together and discuss these things from all of our different perspectives. Nobody's ever right or wrong in this chat. No one's ever right or wrong in how they interpret what I say on their own. It's a matter of how you perceive these words, and that evolves through initiation, self-initiation, initiation into the world, initiation into these new ways of thinking. These are all correct. You are blameless. You are where you're supposed to be. You are learning what we're supposed to learn, right? Yeah. It is kind of great how it works out. What a beautiful opportunity, too, because you know what? Like when I was coming up in the 70s and 80s, you only got to meet the people in your local neighborhood, right? Like there was no way for you to... I mean, there were sort of groups that would get together, and then there were party lines on phones that you could then... A group could kind of get together and, you know, and that didn't really work out too well with the party line thing. And, you know, and then we had our chat rooms, which, you know, got kind of overtaken, and so they weren't really effective. We tried message boards, Gopher, FTP... but now we have this medium. Between this and Discord together, we can share ideas and, you know, not be limited in that sense. And so how great is that? And then leave it up so other people can see it on their own time. You know how many times I get comments on a 3-year-old video I did on Visconti Sforza? Right? Or my lecture I did on Lilith a couple years back? I still get comments on that Lilith stuff, and I still get emails from people wanting, you know, with questions. It's very cool. I had someone bump into recently that I was in another chat room, and they're in the middle of doing some work and had a question related to some Hebrew, and I was able to contribute. That was great. Oh, shit, how great. See, she's always good with the evening's bumper sticker, right? What a way to beat a system designed to divide us. Fuck them. Right? Let's just like, it's like using their words against them. Like, thanks for the platform that you designed to try to capitalize and cash in on, you know, waifus and gamifying emotions. But instead, we're going to use it to spread truth and find each other. Yeah, well, it's kind of one of these things of like, I'm not sure how to approach this, and so I just said I'm just going to be brave and put it all out there. As cringe as some of the old stuff was, I don't care. It was authentic. Everything I did over there was authentic. Everything I'm doing now is in that same energy, and so I'm totally down. And I'm really glad to see people. And Melly, let me know, have you been here before? Did we work together in the past, or are you brand new to what I'm doing here? I know people change names. I don't know if I've ever done a reading for you before. When I was doing the channel was called Metaphysics. I had similar topics that I discussed, but I wonder if you're new to what we're doing here, or if you've bumped into me before. Yeah, that's it. Isn't it fun rediscovering, you know, ourselves through this process? Aurora wrote this beautiful piece of poetry I'm going to share one day that is so intimate. I really I feel like it's something that the world can connect with. It's her magical understanding of a certain idea that is clear, that she got from an intuitive perspective, that is unique and yet inside of all of us, and it's really, really great. Oh, you like that? The voice and the light. The voice and the light is, my magical name is Saturnus Lux. And my other's magical name is Aurora Vox. And so Lux and Vox, and voice and light, among other things. Okay, this is it here? Okay, I can't see it. I have a problem with my camera glitching out on me when the room gets too bright, and so I might need, let me pop on some readers that might help. I'm pushing 50 people. Yeah, no, it's pencil on bright pink paper, and so it's not very clear. I have low light and I'm blind. Okay, let's see here. Here we go. It's called The Playground of the Gods. Union with God. The great work completed. I have divided myself for a chance of union. Love is the law, love under will. How beautiful it is to recognize the fact that all the wanting and pain in life is caused by the blindness to the pull of God's love. We hear it as hunger, sadness, pain, etc. But the knowing of God, the authentic knowing that loves you so deeply, you created an entire universe of distraction, knowing full well that nothing can break the love, the bond of reunification. And it is the only true want. If you look closer, you realize often that there is no want because you cannot want what you already have. If you love so much, I will create an entire universe for you to find me in. I'm gonna reread that because I love you so much. I will create an entire universe for you to find me in. It's your turn to seek. I'll be hiding in the most obvious place, but you won't find me until you know who you are. And that kind of says it all, doesn't it? And of course, she's a Leo. But, thank you, love. And thank you for letting me share that. There's a few things about that that I really like. The first is the idea of, like, you know, I created a universe for you to find me in. There it is. And you won't find me until you know who you are. Really beautiful. Those two statements are the whole thing. It's so gorgeous. I love you so much. I created a universe for you to find me in, and you will only find me when you know who you are. I have to admit that I agree with that. Yeah, that was a great statement. It's beautiful to hear somebody else speak when they clearly have a connection to what they're saying in a deep way, and that it's not just reiterated, regurgitated, repurposed, but there's real feeling behind it. I think she's really onto something there. And so it is. It's beautiful, and I read it every once in a while as a reminder. Right? We need that sometimes when we're surrounded by all kinds of, shall we say, shenanigans. The holy shenanigrammaton is an endless well of meaning. Right? It just goes and goes, and it never stops. Grammaton. It's all just shenanigans. It's just all the machinations of the sage, right? The toys of the rabbi. Bunch of Talmudic stuffy guys trying to have fun with their visions, trying to come up with a language that they could use to describe to people what they're actually experiencing. Shananism? Yeah, the shenanagram is is a very powerful magic, right? That spirit will get you. That spirit is everywhere and is always talking and always butting in on the conversation and always making sure that it's, it's got a voice at the table, doesn't it? That's okay, though. It's welcome. You can't escape it. Embrace it. Embrace the beauty. Embrace the opportunity that can come from that chaos and the middle between chaos and order, where all the splashing and colors take place. That's where we are. I love the colors. That's why we came here. We came here for the colors, man. Right? Don't miss the purple. Was it Virginia Woolf that said, I think it makes God angry when we walk by purple in nature and don't notice it? Don't miss the purple. So, are there any questions or anything anyone wants to review or talk about or address? I'm thinking about wrapping it up in about 15 minutes or so, but if anyone has any questions or would like a free reading or to discuss any of these topics we've been talking about, or maybe even get into anything further, it's very rare that I'm stumped on a subject with respect to occult, astrology, magic, Rosicrucian, Hermetic, homeopathy, naturopathy, aromatherapy, crystal, chakra, color theory, music theory, like anything you guys want to talk about. We'll make sure that it's understood with respect to how we can actually use these symbols to speak something and be understood. Use these methods to create real change and not just some kind of ideal foofy woo that we wish we could be part of, but we don't actually believe in, right? These things are actionable, actual, real symbols that can make change in our lives if we know how to use them and what they're actually speaking, right? So if anyone has any questions about that, let me know. Wants me to just throw some cards, I'm happy to do it. I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about sort of the state of things. The world seems like it's in a very ugly place right now, but I would say to people to relax, because you're just hearing the death throes of the old way. And it goes loud, right? It doesn't go quiet. So let it scream. And I'm feeling pretty good. Few cells salt line with the chart you made. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what your question is. Do the cell salts align with the chart you made? Just learning about that. Cell salts? What's that? Photo girl. Sure, no problem. 11/14. Is that your birthday? Are we talking about November 14th? Or is that 111 and then 4? Why do I think I know you? Photo girl 1114. I don't know. I get a vibe that I know you somehow. Have you been in here before? Is that weird? I'm going to use the Hermetic Tarot. That's what I have tonight. Although I have a few other decks if you have a preference. Yeah, Melly, I'm not sure what you meant there. If you want to reiterate that question as far as like the cell salt imagery. 2/8 is your birthday. February 8th. Oh. So let's take a look here, just to pop up your deacon real quick for you. February 8th. Right. Put you down here. This is the Seven of Swords, and that is Moon in Aquarius. Oh no, you're the 8th. You're the 8th. This is quite an energy that I'm familiar with, which is the Six of Swords. Six of Swords is something that I've done a lot of work with, actually. In fact, it was the angel of this particular period of time that led me on a completely like bonkers spiritual journey, which led me to developing my own system of magic around a combination of the Hebrew and alchemical. And it was me invoking the spirit of the Six of Swords that did that. Okay, so the Six of Swords is your sun sign, decadent, right? And that is Mercury in Aquarius. Which is just personally something that you can kind of take with you. And what does that mean? Well, there's a lot of different symbols for that, but ultimately what it means is that oftentimes it is the state of where you are that determines your direction, and so there's no shame in moving from troubled into calm waters. There's no shame in the path of least resistance, and sometimes often that's the direction you need to go if you're trying to be seen or recognized, or if you're trying to bring a thing that to people who you feel could use it. That would be the method of going about that, rather than trying to fight against that current. You just simply allow it to take you where you'll be accepted, right? But so if you don't have any specific question, Photo Girl, then we can kind of take it general. And typically what I do with that then is just, what should you kind of pay attention to for the next month, right? Is homeopathic medicine a line to be made with the 12th century minutes? Okay, great. Yeah, homeopathy is a very specific and touchy subject that went through a lot of ups and downs, right? It went through the phase of being snake oil and completely misunderstood. A lot of people tried to capitalize on selling sugar pills to people, and I don't really agree with that at all. And homeopathic remedy has a very different idea to those who are practicing it properly. It's not about popping sugar pills that have been diluted to, that's not at all. In fact, we can have a conversation about that. Okay, NSF 225, got to talk about that. Put a marker on that because I do want to speak to that. And I'm going to do a quick reading for Photo Girl first, and then we're going to discuss that, because that's a great question, and I have answers to that question. I know people. I've been around. Almost 50 years as an occultist back in the scene in Atlanta. You bump into some people with some names that do stuff. So we can talk about that. And there's also very specifically the term MK Ultra. MK Ultra is old news, buddy. And let me put it to you this way. The fact that you know about it means that it's now no longer the technique. Right? You don't share your secrets. If it's declassified, it's because it's old news. We've learned a thing or two about how the brain works. Okay, so that said, general. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this top card. I'm going to start with that. I'm then going to put this on the bottom and flip the whole thing over with this now on the top, right? So that's what I just did. I'm going to start there. This is the Princess of Cups. Princess of Cups. All of the princesses in the Rider-Waite system, that's the page, appear on the outside of the wheel. They're seasonal, right? They cover entire periods of time, okay? Entire quarter of the year, right? They 3 full signs. So Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius is what we're referring to here. That period of time between Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius is the Princess of Cups. The energy itself is referring to the idea of the desire to be heard coming into manifestation, meaning that the cup has spilled in the higher world, and now appears on the lower world as the object of desire for the Prince of Cup. She turns him into want. Because again, let's talk about symbolism here. What is a cup? The cup is a feminine symbol, but really, what is it? It's a vessel that's capable of taking in a liquid or something else, right? It carries things. And so it's in a state of want. It wants to be filled up. That's what a cup is. It's wanting. There's a desire implied there. But what she does is she becomes the thing desired. And so the Princess of Cups is sort of the object of desire of the Prince of Cups. And in doing so, elevates him to want to become what she needs to fill her up. And he is then elevated to king. And she becomes a queen, right? And so this is the period of time where that's taking place. This idea of it's time for you to become the object of something's desire, right? To become the point of attention. Here we have the King of Swords, okay, which is the fiery part, or the airy part of air. This is the, in the Thoth system, the Prince of Sword. In the Rider-Waite system, it's going to be the Knight of Sword. But it's the airy part of air. And so communication, talking, wanting to be heard, very active. And so there seems to be some type of vibe of, look out for, over the next month, you putting someone else in the state of wanting to be heard, or you're recognizing somebody who has been kind of trying to get your attention. Something's trying to get your attention. And now here we have the Tower. And what the Tower is the planet Mars. It is this moment of the kind of letting go of an old way. The lightning bolt destroying the tower is a sense of the old paradigm, more appropriately the old institution, is no longer useful, and so it kind of is necessary that be leveled in order to make room for the new thing. And obviously it's the rubble that's used to build up that next phase. We see the tower as Mars in respect to this idea, because if you notice at the end, the year re-beginning, the renewing of the year after Pisces, we see this double Aries going on here, right? This double Mars, going from Pisces into Aries, and that double Mars is double Tower, right? It's like that destruction moving in. Okay. What if that person is in the spirit world now? Well, this person, as far, let me pop that back out. This person, the one that's wanting to be heard, could very well be. And let's discuss that. When somebody is no longer with us in the temporal sense, i.e. they're not alive any longer and we don't get to be with them and talk to them whenever we want anymore, and they only exist, at least from our perspective, temporally in the past. They exist in a place beyond time, right? They've transcended time, space, they're dead, and so their body, although no longer present, the thing that they were and always is, and the infinite part of themselves, didn't go anywhere. They're still at the end of time, which is also the beginning, that place outside of time. Now, we can slowly, occasionally, through work, peek our head in there, right? We can make ourselves slightly aware of that space, and so it gives us the opportunity to communicate with those people. And I want to give you an example. Like, my mother passed away, was it now 11 years ago or something, and I was having an experience of sort of sadness and wanting to talk to her, and I was sitting in the room and I closed my eyes and I brought myself to the recognition of that fact, to the realization that not only is she at the end of time waiting for me to get there, but when she died, I was already there waiting for her. In fact, more appropriately, from her perspective, her and I were never apart. When she left here, she got there, and I was already there waiting for her, right? I was never not with her. And so I was able to, in that moment, have the recognition of that fact, and I felt her presence again. And it opened me up to being able to have that experience and that communication. Okay, Photo Girl? So this is an opportunity to do the same thing. If you feel like that's the case here, that might very well be. One way to determine that is, and we can jump to that very quickly for you, okay, if you want to look at the Prince of Sword, okay, that's in the period of time starting at the Four of Pentacle, which is January 10th, and through till the middle of Aquarius. The Prince of Sword, okay, rules the period of time between the Four of Disc and the 5-6 of Sword, which is end of Capricorn into the first two 20-degree periods of Aquarius. So do you know anybody with those signs that's passed? Because that's certainly an indication of potentially that individual being who you think, right? But that said, you'll certainly know this energy more. It's an active, mental, magnanimous with sharing information type of energy. This is a person who wants to be heard, is typically articulate, could be sharp-tongued when they're pissed off, know just the right thing to say to sting. That kind of vibe of energy. It might even be you, and it's a part of you that you just have hidden, and it's time to release it. But this vibe here is this sense of the tower here. I don't see this as some big ugly event taking place. I see this more as an opportunity to kind of let go of an old institution and move into a new way of thinking so that you can put other people in the state of paying attention. I'm going to pause real quick and ask if that made any sense, Photo Girl. There was a lot of words I hit you with, and so I'm just processing for a second. You let me know if you want any, like where you want clarification. Because if you want, I can pop a card here and just ask, like, you know, are we talking about a dead person? Are we talking about a spirit that's been there always? Are we talking about a part of yourself? Because, spoiler, we are talking about all three. That's right, I am a piece of you that you manifested into your world, the same way that there are spirits in the world that have never been born as an entity that are part of you. And then there's also, at the same time, the people in our lives that aren't here any longer that are also reflections of us. But really, to get to the heart of who's speaking what, you know, let's take a look at that. My sister is Capricorn, okay? But not sure if that makes sense for this situation. Well, right, and it's very important not to jump to conclusions. I think more importantly, and it's going to be hard for me to reiterate, and so I would say go back to that state. You know, when you see this card come out, hit play and re-listen to what I had to say here with respect to the idea of this being becoming the object of desire. One way to put that is again, even for yourself. There could be a certain way of living that you want to convince yourself that you deserve and that you have the motivation to continue to do the work toward. Or become the object of desire of, say, a certain group so that you are respected or received within that, and so you can speak your truth and be heard. But nonetheless. And now this is not a warning other than the fact that it's the recognition that the new starts when the old crumbles, and that it's the stones of the old that build the new temple. And of course that's what we're here to do right now. We just entered that period of time from Sagittarius to Capricorn, right? We are right now in the 8 of Wands, and this is the stage of that process taking place. We are burning down the old way, building the pyre in the 10, and that's the birth of the phoenix. We jump into that flame, and then we are reborn as the devil in Capricorn. And this is the phase of the rebuilding of the temple, the 2, 3, and 4 of Pentacle. Is the rebuilding of that temple, so that we can be prepared for what happens in Aquarius, which is the ritual complete and the cup being filled up, ready to spill. So it's very relevant to the period of time that we're in right now, actually. But I will say this: if there isn't a desire to communicate, dangerous word, but it's appropriate, with intelligences that have passed, people, pets, even individuals or energies that have lived on the earth and don't any longer. It's there. The process can be a lot less woo than you think. It's kind of the basis for today's lesson was, how do you speak to angels and demons, and what does that mean? All right. So, let's just throw one more out as a final message / clarifier, and of the that period of time. I'm going to put this on top, put that in the middle, put this on the bottom. Okay, and just kind of cut straight down. Okay, and we get 6 of Pentacles. That's fine. It could be Pisces. Yeah, don't get hung up too much on that. It's just there's a sense of a talker who's quick with their mind, or who has the capacity or desire to speak, has no problem being heard, that type of person, right? And so it could easily be a Pisces. Pisces are typically pretty open with themselves too, so they usually are pretty authentic with their feelings, or at least capable of communicating them. I wouldn't say no, always authentic. I know plenty of Pisces that are a little overtaken by their emotions. But here we have the 6. This is a card of generosity. It's a card of giving. It's a card of... and what is generosity? It's the recognition of the self in the other and allowing for certain things because of that. It's the moment of when a little kid comes up and says, oh, my imaginary friend's name is Bob and he's standing right here. Instead of you saying, there's no, you go, oh, how cute. How are you today, Bob? Right? There's kind of this magnanimity, the desire to be, to introduce to that process. But here, there's a level of balance associated with that. And so it's a matter of saying, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more discerning about how I go about that for the sake of authenticity. And so this is a little bit different, right? And what it winds up doing is it allows for that, and this term, they call it material success. But what that really more is appropriately the side effect of that authenticity is that everybody kind of grows together. And it allows for you to be in a position to kind of spread that equality there. And so where it's lacking, you can fill it up. And where it's excessive, you can ensure that it doesn't keep getting the lion's share when it doesn't need it. Yes, that's true. Absolutely. To learn is to heal. And sometimes when you put pressure on a system is when you see where the cracks are, right? And sometimes the world will do that, and then the cracks will appear, and we see that as injury, but it's exactly that. It's the opportunity to heal, become stronger, and now know our limitations, learn, overcome, and then that's not a limitation anymore. It becomes a superpower, right? And then we can spread that. So thank you for that, Melly. I think that was a great insight there. And material success always comes from that proper union, that proper understanding of the different components and how they interplay. And of course, what is 6? 6 on the wheel, or on the tree rather, is Tiferet. It's the sun, right? And Tiferet is this idea of being seen, of shining the light, of becoming the center of attention, and then giving you the opportunity to use that time to show people themselves. Use that time to project authenticity so that it's seen, heard, everyone bounces that back in a sense, and you wind up in this space of growth. Everyone grows at the same time, and so it takes the energy state and it elevates it to a higher state. And what happens when it drops back down? It shoots off a photon, right? Boom, it's a burst of light. That light is seen by others. It creates attention. And that's what we're talking about here. And so that totally ties into what else we were talking about. There's this period of time, this next period of Sagittarius, that gives you the opportunity to be seen, to kind of come out of your shell a little bit. That doesn't mean you have to jump to the world and go, I'm here, right? That's not necessary, but certainly to a certain degree, you can do that. You can begin to allow that light out and see who peeks back. Okay, photo girl? I hope that was helpful. If you like what I'm doing here, please hit that button. A simple thumb and a subscribe is enough to at least let the algorithm know that I'm here and a real person. And if you want to engage even further with a comment, it tells the robots that you liked it enough to actually tell me that you liked it. Or you can go down there and say that it sucks. Either way, if it's something that you enjoy, something you think somebody else can gain some insight from, just let them know I'm here. Yeah, I got coffee going too. So, NSF had a very interesting question. Were there celebrities that were part of MK Ultra? And what is that all talking about, right? Because we want to get to let's get to the real heart of all that. MK Ultra is a very specific thing. Thank you, T. MK Ultra was a very specific thing. It's been semi-declassified. We understand that essentially it was a program that was designed to see if it was possible to control people's minds, right? And they went through various different techniques for doing that. Primarily, there was, for instance, sleep deprivation, a lot of sensory overload, a lot of work into sleep suggestion and things during sleep. The attempt to destroy the personality with the goal of being able to empty it out to create a space to fill in a new one, right? And all of that was with the goal, with the intent, at least from what we can understand at this point, it's probably true that this was the reason to create a soldier, right? Can we take a mind and wipe it clean and make what we want, right? That was sort of the goal. Okay. Yeah, see, and I'm looking at the chat and I think I'm behind. Yeah, we can absolutely discuss MK Ultra. And it's sort of, well, I don't know if hypnosis is the right word, T. They were going even further than that. They wanted to, like, legitimately destroy that mind and recreate it as what they wanted it to be, with the intent of creating super soldiers, right? The intent of creating somebody who it can be controlled. And did they succeed at that? Right? Were they able to accomplish this goal? I will say this, they learned a lot about how the mind works. They learned a lot about the limitations of the human body. Right? Don't do it. But if you look into the Russian sleep experiment, you'll see what sleep deprivation will do to a human being, and it's not pretty. Right? MK Ultra, that's American unclassified information. Imagine what some people who don't really have the same morals and standards as our old CIA that tortured, and what they've done to people to find the limits of the human body and mind, right? Because that's been stretched by organizations on purpose. I'm not going to get into conspiracy and say I know anything about MK Ultra, that the people in the 40s and whatever the case that were utilizing this stuff knew. I mean, all we know is what's declassified, but we know what was happening there. Of course we do. And now you're asking the question about celebrities. Well, yeah, 100% there were people as part of that program who were designed to be public figures that could be utilized as honeypot, as misinformation, as spies, as recruiters. But what I would say right now, and this is really important, is that you don't need that to accomplish that same goal. And that's one of the things that was learned in that process, is it turns out you can't. There's a certain thing in the human mind, you can break it all you want, you can rebuild it all you want. Rather, there needs to be a manipulation that takes place where it rewires the reward system, and that's what you manipulate. And that includes belief systems. there are brain waves that can be applied to a human body that will facilitate the sensation of a spiritual experience. By studying people by going through these spiritual experiences, they've been able to determine what that wave looks like and then replicate it by essentially actively creating that sensation in your mind, a sensation of separateness, a sensation of longing, a sensation of emptiness and feeling. And then to fill that sensation with a replacement. And so, the modern day celebrity, the modern day social media influencer is a side effect of that. Both sides. The influencer does not realize they are under control, and the person watching the influencer doesn't realize that they're under control. Because what MK Ultra taught was that we don't need to break their brains. We just need to, appropriately put them in the state of believing a specific way of thinking, and then we can let them loose to go ahead and propagate that. So let's stop and take a look at the chat here. Right, it's scary that I was just... Okay. Maybe it's kind of funny, and I wouldn't say it's strictly just Ari. You look at some of this. You can go back to Stanley Kubrick from the 70s and see them just talking it out right? Lolita, Stanley Kubrick's Lolita, or going back even further to some of the literature of the early 1900s with respect to the New Thought movement, which moved into this whole manifestation idea of people like, just think positive and get what you want, right? Like The Secret and these wackos. Because what it does is it puts you in a position of receptivity. It is a form of hypnosis, like Tenemura was talking about, but it was even further than that. Because and this is the kicker, they don't need to drag a celebrity into a room and destroy their brain to turn them into an operative. They just simply do it by poking at the parts of the human system that react to reward. Now you said it. And of course, it's much deeper than that. There are patterns in speech, patterns in color, patterns in shape that will elicit certain open states of response. In fact, Chase Hughes, which talks about this, I'm getting a book in a couple of days. He just published it, and so I jumped on it. It's an early birthday gift that I'm going to be receiving tomorrow. That talks about this and how the mind really can't be trusted, and most importantly, he shows examples of that. And so I'm going to read the book and actually bring it onto the channel and talk about it. And I'm going to I can't imagine it's going to happen, but I'm going to try to get him on here to discuss that, because he's actually the person who teaches the military persuasion, the individual who teaches the U.S. military. He wrote the book on persuasion that's used by the modern military. His name is Chase Hughes, Hughs, something like that. Talks about this, and if you don't know his channel, go watch him. He's part of the body language panel, but he's separate. He has his own channel where he discusses exactly what you're speaking about, and MK Ultra is old news. The techniques have been far more developed since then than you can imagine. Right? Let's see, submissive state for banking. So true, yeah. Right. Thank you, Kitten. And we all feel that. You can tell the difference between somebody who intuitively or naturally has a talent and somebody who is being used as a vehicle for an agenda, right? You can tell in their language. You can tell by the first, so much that can be gleaned by the type of words that are used. Thank you. Yeah, it's coming up in a couple weeks. For sure. Yeah, computers just allowed it to become, massively accessible, massively easy to spread the message. I mean, just think about how quick and easy it is to convince, half the population of a certain thing just by, posting it on 3 separate fake accounts, and now everyone believes it. Yeah, well, oh, you're talking about that appearance I did? Yeah, that was so cringe. That's okay. I haven't seen her around. I wonder what happened to that. I don't know. I'm leaving it up there. Like, I haven't asked them to take it down, and I haven't, I'm not pushing it to anybody to go watch, but, it happens. Okay, Chase Hughes, yeah, the most recent one he did is called Tongue. Tongue, like the thing we talk with in our mouth, tongue. That's his new book. I can't speak to it. I haven't read it yet, but it looks interesting. But he did write the book on persuasion. A lot of neuroscience, a lot of language pattern, a lot of nuance in how our limbic system reacts to these patterns and so forth, and that's your guide. Yeah. And I learned a lot from that. Plus, back in the day, back in the early 90s, I did a lot of studying and practical application of NLP, right? Neurolinguistic programming, right? The idea of language patterns eliciting specific chemical responses in the listener, and how you can use language patterns to create emotional response. It was very neat, and it allowed me to see when it was happening to me, which it's used all the time. It's still used all the time in marketing, advertising, the shapes that we use for logos, all kinds of different ways that we're being manipulated. And so, to answer the question, people who are under the MK Ultra, the entire Western Hemisphere is under the control of a very specific algorithmic system of poking around the limbic system to produce a response, and it has been so abused by marketing, advertising, government, anti-government, foreign adversary, that it is completely achieved its goal, which is to confuse us to the point that we don't know it's real anymore, and are in such a state of starving seeking that we will take the first morsel of truth that we think we hear. Which is why I'm here. I'm here to shut down all the wacko, safe space, twin flame, join my crystal. These words are an important part of the vocabulary, but if they're misunderstood, just wind up turning into fantasy, and it stops you from accessing what they actually could bring you. Why is a green crystal used to activate the heart chakra? What's that? That's it. Get those thumbs for your dopamine, right? Well, I'll tell you why do we use green crystals to activate the heart chakra? NSF, you're on. I'll go ahead and throw cards for you. Okay, this is why the 7th Sephira of the Tree of Life is Netzach, which is Venus, love, the feminine, active, motherly, nurturing energy, desire, concept. And we take that green, it becomes the heart chakra. We use green stones like peridot to activate the heart. All that is people not understanding. It's really just the Kabbalistic science that's been regurgitated as crystals and chakras and astrology symbols as like the planet Venus. No, it's the fixed component of the alchemical system. It's the thing that makes it real. It turns it hard, right? The salt of the salt, sulfur, and mercury. That's what she's responsible for. Making it real, bringing it into physical reality by giving birth to it, making it solid, right? Okay, so let's do a general reading for NSF. I'm going to whip out the Thoth for you. Let's do the Thoth. And I appreciate you subscribing, I do. And engaging in the chat. That's what tells the robots that people are actually engaging, is because you're in the chat. And that means more than subscribing, believe it or not. So I appreciate that. General. So what I'm going to do is the same thing that I did for Photo Girl, and let's take a look at the next month. And this isn't, here's what's going to happen in the next month. What this is what you should look out for and some opportunities that may present themselves for you to either take advantage of or avoid now that you know that it might be coming. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing here for a general reading for NSF. Let's see what we got. What should you know? Okay, same thing. I'm going to open it to the half. Take that card out. Put it on the bottom. And now I'm flipping this over. My Pluto is in Scorpio? No kidding. Okay. You know what that means? This is your astro weather forecast. We find our Pluto in Scorpio, which means we're fucked. Pluto is the idea of like death, darkness, slowness, and all that stuff, right? And Scorpio is the death card, right? It's the mini orgasm, right? It's the moment of the heat turning the water into steam, so putrefaction can take place, and it's in the death and the rot that the new is born. There's all kinds of spooky going on there. That's right. You know how I put that too? I put that as you can only hear the truth when you speak it. Careful when you hear it. When you're speaking it is when you hear it. Right? So it's felt, but more appropriately, it's spoken by you, not by someone else. Prince of Cups. This is the airy part of water. This is the sword presenting the cup. On the period of time of the wheel here, let's just pop that up real quick. There's my arrow. Okay. I'm going to put that down here, and I'm going to find our Prince of Cup. You can look around the wheel, and you'll see that we're right here. Okay? And that is, of course, again, Scorpio. Now, just to be clear on this Mars-Pluto, so people are understanding what we're talking about here, each sign is ruled by a planet. Okay, if we look on our rose, we'll see that the outer ring of the Kabbalistic rose are the signs, and the inner ring are the planets, and each sign is associated with planets and so forth, right? And so this wheel is showing us that each sign is ruled by a planet, and Mars rules Aries. And back in the day when we started using these symbols, we had not discovered Pluto yet, and so Scorpio was also Mars. But since we discovered Pluto, Pluto has been associated with Scorpio. So Scorpio is ruled by Mars and or Pluto, depending upon how you work that. And now why does that matter? Well, that matters because the Kabbalists used 7 planets, not because of the planets that they saw in the sky at the time. That's not true. They even called the sun and the moon a planet. These are not planets. Those 7 inner symbols are the combinations of the 3 on the inside, the Aleph, Mem, Shin. Okay, and so that 7 is a real number. It's not arbitrary. And Pluto, from that respect, is not so much one of the 7 planets as one of the Aleph, Mem, Shin. Okay, and so that this is, I don't 100% necessarily follow Pluto as one of the ruling planets. It moves too slowly, it's too far out, and it has a very different vibe. Plus, now that we know, Pluto is not a planet, it's 3 planets. Which is also a very beautiful thing, isn't it? The outermost part of our solar system is capped off by these 3 bodies. It's just great. But that said, just to be clear, okay? Mars in Cancer. Okay. And Pluto in Scorpio. Okay. Now, astrologically, we do look at Pluto, like when we're doing charts, right? Because it is one of those beautiful sort of clocks. Pluto's a good way to kind of tell sort of when somebody was born, because it takes so long that you can sort of, by telling you what sign it's in, you can almost determine the decade they were born in. There's a lot of information, right, related to that. And so at the end of the day, what I would say is that whether or not you include Pluto in your process with respect to the tarot or astrology, it does have a place at the table, right? And so I don't want to come off that I don't think that it has a place at the table. But more appropriately, what we're referring to here when we look at the Prince of Cups is a machination. It's a transformation. This is a transformation moving from cardinal air into fixed water. That is what the Prince of Cups is. Cardinal air into fixed water. Okay, the energies that are associated with this are Jupiter, Mars, and the Sun. Mars being right in the middle, right? So there's that red energy, that fire energy, that idea of heat contributing to the process of this death in Scorpio. The next being that 6 and 7, but here we're in that phase of the 5, being him, the Prince of Cup, in his grandest state. And of course, what is the Prince of Cup doing? But he is courting the Princess of Cup. He is attempting to become the object of her desire. These cards are always very transitory, and you'll hear that word a lot, but here's what that means. He's in the state of transforming. And what is he going to transform into? But the Knight of Wand, the king, the Knight of Wand. And his princess is going to turn into the Queen of Disc, right? And so when they meet each other, this transformation will take place. So we have this transformation of the airy part of water moving into the fiery part of fire, which is great. And now, what does this all mean in English? When you're open enough to speak your truth from an authentic place, i.e., go through the act of death so that you can be reborn authentically without the desire to fulfill the old way, you are able to speak openly and truthfully. And what winds up happening is those words create heat in the moment. It's kind of like you are the cup, which is the crucible that's happening in Sagittarius at that stage. And that's what gives you that power to become the Knight of Wand and to ignite that whole phase, right? And that's what we're talking about here. If we're trying to ignite that process, we either become that flame or we allow ourselves to be overcome by it. But either way, that's the lesson here. Is that you have an opportunity to, through the process of being authentic when you speak and filling others up by that truth, you will ignite you and they, but you will become the light that they see as the Knight of Wand in that stage. In the fulfillment of Scorpio, and it's fine. Because what is the fulfillment of Scorpio? To turn all that water into steam, to boil it all off so that there's this process of Sagittarius that can take place during that dissolving, the dissolution of the alchemical process that Sagittarius points to. And again, what does that mean? It means building the pyre and jumping in to facilitate the phoenix. Right? Need to catch up on chat here. Okay. All right, I'm just looking up at the chat and I see NSF, you've removed a bunch, and so I'm going to ask you the transition that you're going through. Is that something you want to talk about a little bit further here, or on a specific level, or do you want me to keep it kind of esoteric and let you hear it on your own privately? Okay, yes, fairies are a thing, and we can, yes, that's, you're in a safe space to talk about that. You may get a different take on the Fae from me, but we're probably going to wind up landing in a very similar space, but go ahead. The sylphs, the undines, the salamanders, the gnomes. These are the elemental creatures. The Fae have a place in that. The Fae are the spiritual manifestation of the creative part of that element in the form of an elemental creature, right? And so there are fire fairies, earth fairies. We don't call them that, right? Culturally, they have a different term that came from the part of the world that derives that system of magic that includes the entities known as fairies, right? Very cool. Sun in Pisces, North and Sag. Very cool. We got a fun group together tonight. That's cool. Yes, T. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, you're among friends when it comes to Fae. So go ahead. What do you got? Is there a question or is an insight about fairy? Do you want to share something with respect to that? Okay, so, let's talk about that. The other day I told myself I was a fairy. I don't know, but I actually believed it. Okay, let's discuss that. You are able to invoke fairies. We all are. What I mean is that you are not a fairy, but more appropriately, what you are is able to embody them. Just like we can embody a sylph, we can embody an undine, right? These are the sylphs and the undines are like the air and earth. The salamander is the fire, right? And so on. We have these kind of names that we use for these elemental creatures. We have the capacity, NSF, to invoke, to embody these fairies, or evoke, to bring them into our presence instead of into ourselves, right? So we have the ability to invoke and evoke entities into our life, and the language of the fairy with respect to their idea, their connection to not just the natural world, but natural processes, is very similar to the Goetic idea of invoking an angel or a demon and asking it to do our bidding or to share a piece of information, right? And so the capacity to go into a forest and to listen to the trees and invite the spirit of the Fae of Earth. And you can get all kinds of conversation, beautiful things that will appear to you, beautiful things that you wouldn't have seen otherwise, pieces of information. Careful with the will-o'-the-wisps. Watch out for them. You see them in the corner of your eye, and they lead you to injury, and then they laugh at it. They're like, let's see if I can get this human to trip on that rock over. Did it again. All right, you guys remember Labyrinth when she looked at, oh, look at this pretty little fairy, and it bit her, and she's like, oh, you didn't know they bit? Well, they do. But they don't. They're not good or evil. They're just elemental. Right? They're elemental. Which means there's 16 kind of different varieties of their qualities, right? If you're elemental, you manifest in one of 16 ways. One example of that is the 16 court cards are really just combinations of signs and planets, right? Prince is air, cup is water, so this is a combination of the airy part of water. The I Ching refers to that as well by combining the 8 and the 8 for the total of 16. Right. And so it's all kind of combined in that same way. The court cards all contain all this information. But ultimately what we're talking about is that there's these 16 different ways that we can separate these symbols, right? Here's one of the 16 that we all know and love. Right? Yes, right. These are court cards, people. These are elemental combinations, right? These are fiery part of water, the earthy part of, right? And we all fall on here, don't we? And so the court cards are the Myers-Briggs personality system, and we can all access those. And so if we find ourselves in a state of, as an example, extrovert, and we need to kind of work on becoming a little more introverted, or vice versa, right? We have that capacity, and so on. And You know, pardon, I write on my stuff with dry erase while teaching. Some notes on there from an old class. But so, you know, that's what we're talking about here. And that vocabulary lets us sort of access bits of information that we're not 100% familiar with. Okay. These are great because they're in order. Gemini, Virgo. Okay. Gemini, the lovers, the twins. Romulus and Remus. Jesus and St. John. The Holy Saint John, to the Freemasonic brothers out there. The Holy Saint John are the twins of Gemini. Lilith and Eve. Right? Lilith and Eve, the two sides of the women in our creation story. The marriage of Christian Rosicrucian. This is the idea of the red lion and the white eagle, which just reveal that. Here's Sagittarius, cool, right on the bottom. I love that. The red lion turns white. The white eagle turns red. And what does that mean? Well, we keep talking about transformation. That's the ultimate transformation. This is Sagittarius. And what is happening here is that the heat of the lion turns him to ash. And that heat is carried over to the eagle, and the eagle begins to heat up. And so there's the swap. Another way of put that is the idea of the man is the active speaker and she is receiving him, so she's listening. But when she is filled up and cries out and she pours out, she becomes the speaker and he is received. He receives her. All right? And so she becomes the heat, he becomes the receptive, and so these two identities swap. And now, you know, one of the interesting things about this, and I'm just going to put it out there and meditate on this, and we can talk about it another time. Leo and Scorpio. Okay, this is Leo and Scorpio. And then we have the Hermit, which is the act of being born through the birth canal. All right, it's the idea of the light at the end of that tunnel that we see through the birth canal, guiding us through, and that lantern is the thing that protects the flame from the winds of the mind and allows it to stay lit and shine that way. Cool, you got mugwort in the yard. I love that. Yeah, that's them leaving you a little marker. That's awesome. How great. That's awesome. There's all kinds of fun little things we can pop in and see. Dollhouse with the tiny furniture, they will legit move it on you. Right? Yeah, if you want to have some gnomes in your house, right? That's one way to do it. Oh, but let me actually just go through this a little further with you, though. So we have this idea of the marriage, and what this is there's three players here. Okay? We have the Emperor, the Empress, and the Hierophant. Okay, the Emperor and the Empress are salt and sulfur. And then we have the Hierophant, which is allowing this marriage to take place to give birth to Mercury. Right, Mercury as the child of that union. And then what winds up happening is this is the act taking place, and then this is literally the birth canal. That's a spermatozoa. The wheat refers to the birth canal. That light is the vaginal opening, and that Orphic egg is the outside world that's about to be reborn when this lamp carries you through the birth canal. This obviously is the three-headed dog of hell, and is there to protect hell, and is actually the guide of the hermit. And who is the hermit but Thoth? This is Thoth. Walking out of the dark place and ready to be born into the, into the light. So transformation's a thing. Well, yes, and let's put it even more appropriate than that. Not only because we're all going through a transition, that's very general, but yeah, that's true. But more appropriately, it's the type of transition. Meaning that in this case, it's the transition of going from the Prince of Cup into the King of Wand. It's the idea of being the capacity to speak the truth into being very passionate and rather than speaking, casting. And so you simply you walk it, and it becomes a thing that you are instead of a thing that you were saying, right? I wonder if the Lovers is about to do that I just met, which helped me awaken to all of this. Well, holographically, yes. Because once we ever take a step onto a path, what we wind up doing is inviting that, right? And so that light in the corner of our eye becomes a little brighter, and it will begin to bring things into your life. And so that the symbol of the alchemical marriage is exactly that. It's you unifying with that part of yourself and then allowing that light to be born so that you can follow it. And it is. The Lover's card is not always the card of relationship. That's more the Two of Cup. What this is the higher level version of you opening up to that relationship and becoming ready to receive a higher level master in your life. Whether that's a piece of yourself or you to begin a new direction of study. Sure, and that's fine. Timing is everything, right? And so you can't always know when you're hearing the truth that you should be paying attention and taking notes, right? So you're busy living life, and sometimes hindsight, you'll go, "Oh crap, that's what that meant." That's happened to me where it took me 10 years, and then suddenly I came to a conclusion like, "Oh my gosh, had I only been paying attention." Now, what does it mean to be reborn into the light? That doesn't mean that you reject the darkness. It means that you recognize that when light shines, shadows appear. Right? When you light that lantern, it casts shadows also. That's okay. What you have to do is be okay walking in both, right? That's fine. We are sensational beings, and there's no shame in that. We are beings designed to receive. It's okay to do that, right? At the same time, understand what it is that we're supposed to be receiving, and so you don't wind up wasting the space with something that's not really correct or that's going to clog up the hole. That's going to prevent you from having the full experience. So. Anyone who hasn't, jump on the Discord. A lot of the tools that I use on this channel I put up there for free. Anyone wants any guidance on how to use this stuff, give me a shout. My phone number on the top works, I promise. Or you can give me a text at that number, or you can join the Discord and shoot a message over. And if you have a question and I see it on there, I'm pretty long-winded with my answers, but it'll be honest, and I do research, so you're going to get a good answer. Appreciate that. Everybody, really, I mean it as well. And I appreciate it too, because it's very hard to find like-minded people to talk about this stuff with. And what I'd like to do as well is to invite the opportunity, if anybody out there has any insight or connection with this information and wants to get on with me sometime, and I'll get you in on a call in, or we'll do a live stream together. I'm happy to do that, and to kind of look at all the different angles, all the different perspectives. Tanamera and I, as an example, we have a lot of very similar overlapping opinions about things, and we also have a very different way of approaching those things. And so I find her personally to be a very good, valuable resource as like a bounce off of a different perspective of what I already know, right? And other people kind of do that same thing. Thanks for that, T. And so, the goal here is not just to build a community and to, continue this conversation, but more importantly, to create a space, a place, a permission to ask the questions and get good answers, to bounce around how we feel about things and come to conclusions instead of just reiterating the club that we belong to and all that stuff, right? So, well, thank you. I don't know, I'd like to think that the reason that is because that's actually my goal. Like, my goal is for you to understand my words, and so I'm going to do everything I can to hope that I'm understood, and I think that comes across, so I appreciate that. The real crux is if you learned anything, right? You know, the next time we go to the tarot cards, are we going to remember that Six of Swords has to do with Aquarius and why that's the case, right? Or like that's really the goal of what we're trying to do here, is to make sure that we understand where these symbols come from, that the planetary associations are really just descending on the tree, right? And it's the order that these planets descend that is why we decide these symbols go in the order that they do, and you know, and why we choose these combinations of signs and planets as sort of like a vocabulary for determining what these cards mean. You know, I want you to recall that the next time you have a question, and so you can pull out your own card and get a sense of who you're talking to. Or the next time you hear the word demon, you can recognize that is probably being spoken by someone who does not understand where these words came from, and is going to misinterpret or weaponize that word. And it's a way for us to really take responsibility away from the people in our lives that are hurting us, and the way that we should be more responsible for our own safety and comfort and sanity. Refined? That's fine. You're raw and beautiful, though, T. I mean, raw and beautiful. Thank you so much for stopping. Yeah, it's 4 a.m. here, too. I'm going to be heading out of here in about 8 minutes. Right? So, but thank you for popping in. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you in my chat again soon. I'm going to be on once a day at least. So that's it. We talked about the ShemHaMephorash. We talked about Goetia. We talked about the Kabbalistic cube and the 8 points of the cube being the 8 elements of the I Ching. We talked about, developing your own ShemHaMephorash with your own lines. You don't have to use Exodus 19, 20, and 21, or chapter 14, verses 19, 20, 21. You could use Genesis from the Bible. You could use A Midsummer Night's Dream. You could use the Jabberwocky. You could write your own poetry and then throw those letters in there that way. But either way, the goal here is to just access parts of ourselves that we didn't know we always had access to, that was always kind of hiding because we were afraid to let it out. We didn't give it permission. And in doing so, we wound up kind of getting a little confused. And that's okay, because there's always a path home. Even Christianity teaches us of that, right? It doesn't matter how much you've sinned in your life. God gave us a path home through Christ. And what is Jesus? But it's Yahovah with the shin of fire in the middle, Yeshua. Yud He Shin Vav He. The name Jesus is simply the fourfold name of God with the flame of the shin lighting the inside, Yeshua. And we can see that beautiful card to come out as the middle pillar of the tree of life, right? The middle pillar of the tree is the path back up. All right, we're on Malkut, and then we pass through that path of Saturn and find ourselves at the moon, which is the high priestess. The high priestess is a moon energy, a lunar energy, right? And then you move up that next path from the moon to the sun. And what is that? That's Sagittarius right there. And then the final path to cross the abyss and make it all the way back up is the high priestess. That long blue path in between Tiferet, which is the sun, and Keter, which is the crown, and that path in between, which is the moon energy of high priestess. Okay. And so, that middle pillar is the way back up. At least the easiest, most ideal, most refined way up. You can go up the other rungs of the ladder, but man, it's a little hairy back there. It gets pretty intense, and you typically will fall straight back down. Which is what we're here to do anyway, so don't worry. If you find yourself in the state of falling, it's just because that's what we're here to do. Yeah, culture has a way of doing that. And you know, how we participate in that culture is up to us. We don't, you know, there's a lot of culture that I just don't even. I tried giving Twitch a shot, right? I tried streaming this on Twitch. Could you imagine streaming this on Twitch, teaching real magic on Twitch? It's so gamified. No one's even paying attention to what's going on because they're busy clicking, you know, looking for Pokemon. Like, that's fine if that's what you're there to do. But if there's actually a desire to develop a conversation and a dialogue, it's just not the place. And, you know, it's the way of deciding what parts of the culture that you decide you want to perpetuate, and the ones that you want to just sort of, you know, allow their little subculture to exist. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but I don't have to necessarily participate in it. And I can keep my doors open anytime you want. And so when it's time to take that information to the next level, and then we're here. That's all. All right, so I think I'm going to wrap it up. To everybody who came and stayed, thank you so much. And participating in the chat, you're great. For all the people who came and watched, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it, and you're always welcome, obviously. And to all the people who see this after the fact, I'm hoping to do this every day. But, you know, I'm very accessible. I'm still small, right? And so I can still answer questions one-on-one. I don't charge for readings typically unless they get really advanced, and we'll talk about that beforehand. But in most of the time, it's, you know, like I joke all the time. I know Tana Mary hates it when I say it, but you can pay me to lie for you. The truth is always free. I love you, T. Thank you. Thank you, Millie, for popping in. Thank you, Photo Girl. Who else popped in today? That was really active in the room. NSF. We had a nice little group tonight. There's one other name that I'm not remembering. I don't remember who popped in, but that said, thank you to everyone who did participate in the chat. And for those who were too shy to, or just want to watch and listen, that's why I'm here. It's for you guys, okay? So I appreciate it. And just always remember that we are never alone. And I love you. Always.
It stops like thunder.